It's Christmas Eve, all who believe Santa is here, but once a year, all girls and boys dream of new toys. Soundly they sleep, wishes to keep. Jing, jingling, come hear us sing. Breaths on the door, stockings and more. Magic the strife, spells come alive. Snow in the air, laughter to share. Family and friends, season to cleanse. Joyful and dear, end of the year. 'Tis a very fine and special Christmas. 'Tis a very fine and special Christmas. It's Christmas Eve, all who believe Santa is here, but once a year, all girls and boys dream of new toys. Soundly they sleep, wishes to keep. Jing, jingling, come hear us sing. Breaths on the door, stockings and more. Magic the strife, spells come alive. Snow in the air, laughter to share. Dark winter skies, spirits to rise. Changelings away, demons their take. It's Christmas Eve, all who believe Santa is here, but once a year, all girls and boys dream of new toys. Soundly they sleep, wishes to keep. Jing, jingling, come hear us sing. Breaths on the door, stockings and more. Magic the skies, spells come alive. Snow in the air, laughter to share. Breaths on the door, stockings and more. Magic the skies, spells come alive. It's Christmas Eve, all who believe Santa is here, but once a year, all girls and boys dream of new toys. Soundly they sleep, wishes to keep. Magic the strife, spells come alive. Snow in the air, laughter to share. Breaths on the door, stockings and more.
Hello and welcome to the Literary License Podcast. This week we will be covering A Christmas Horror Story from 2015 and Tales from the Crypt from 1972. I am your host through the Anthology series, Joe Randazzo, and before we move into the movies themselves, let's see who we've got with us. We have Davide Cavallo. How are you doing today?
Hi everyone, I'm very, very good.
Vicky Ray
Hi, guys.
and the leader of Literary License, Keith Chago.
Happy holidays to our heathen people.
You heathens. They're all heathens. Merry Christmas. Don't forget the Merry fucking Christmas part.
Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate, may it be merry. So
Get us through this week, Lord.
before we go into the movies, let's just find out what everybody's been doing this week. Starting with you, Davide.
Right, my private life, not much. I mean, I'm working. I've had a very tiny, small surgery, so I'm struggling a little bit with the pain, but I'm alive, so it's all good.
No, you had surgery?
Yeah, just a tiny one. But it's Christmas. I mean, it's Christmas. Yes, of course I do it, but it's winter period as well. So it's a bit of the struggle with sometimes not having enough light, not going outside much. So a little bit of depression, anxiety, whatever. But
Tanning beds.
I know. But
Rooms
then
of light.
meditation helps a lot. That's my advice to everyone. I've been doing heavily meditation. I literally come home. All I do is just put on the headphones and then listen to guided meditation. It helps immensely.
God, I wish I could do that.
So
I
you're
couldn't.
saying you
No.
didn't
What's
enjoy
else?
last night's 19 hours of darkness?
19 hours.
We had
Oh,
19 hours of darkness last night because
Did you lose power last night?
No, we have last night was the longest night of the year, so we get 19 hours of darkness. Now,
Well, yeah, that's right, because you
Oh,
guys are so
yes.
far north. I keep forgetting.
Yeah.
It freaks me out when the sun is out in England and I'm there and it's like 9 o'clock at night. I'm
To
like,
be
what the
honest, it's
hell?
always dark. This is a very dark period. I mean, it's okay, but it's just sometimes it's just
It's
waking up
gloomy,
early in the
depressing
morning.
sometimes.
Yeah, it's just like waking up in the morning and it's dark, and then coming out of work and it's dark, and oh gosh,
Yeah,
and
that would
so
that would get to me
yeah.
a little
But there's also still so much going on. But it's okay. I mean, meditation helps a lot. That's my advice. But between this week and last week, I watched an immense amount of stuff. So I finally managed to finish the latest series of American Horror Story. Thank God. And my
bit.
God, Joe, you need to watch it because you have
Are
no
you
idea.
talking about Delicate?
Is that
Uh,
the? I have not seen a single
oh
season yet. I
yes,
have so much to catch
Kardashian?
up on.
yes. Delicate
I
is the
am
one.
halfway through it. When we're done, you're going to have to tell me what the fuck that is all about, because I have been asking you. Somebody please explain to me American Horror Story Delicate, because I'm just, it's like, what is going on here?
The nice thing is that
It's
they try.
the anxieties of a woman
Pregnancy.
giving up her career and getting pregnant and what that
Yeah.
means.
But it's, it's bizarre. It's American Horror Story.
It is bizarre, but it's good that they try different things. On top of that, I also watched a series of American Horror Stories, which I thought was
I
going to
like
be quite
American Horror
boring.
Stories. Those are really good. Those were
But
really
the first two episodes that's basically one story I didn't like. But the other one,
The only one I
wow,
liked was the Dollhouse one. I like the Dollhouse one.
good. I haven't seen that one yet.
But really watch them. This is my advice for you, Joes. I think you might really enjoy it. I think
You're talking about this last season specifically? You think I'll really enjoy?
No. I'll tell you that every season of American Horror Story and
Just in
American Horror
general,
Story.
yeah, okay.
Joe needs more to watch.
I mean, for once, I'm suggesting something. Just for once.
When it comes to long form stuff, man, I am not.
I know, but
good
then
with it. I still haven't seen all those.
I promise it's worth it. I promise it's worth it.
God, what is his name? I still want to watch all those Mike Flanagan Netflix series, and I haven't watched a single one of those yet. I should do it. I just got to do them one episode a day and get through them that way.
Remember, it's hibernation winter period. This is the time to stay home and do nothing but watching.
Well, next month I'm going to be in New Jersey for like 2 weeks, and I'm not going to have my DVD and Blu-ray collection with me, so maybe that'll be the time to fire them up on the laptop and.
But please don't give up on American Horror Story. You might find some series a little bit.
Oh, I mean, it's always going to be.
I love American Horror Story. Some of the themes are more like Coven. That's my absolute favorite go-to horror story.
Which one?
American Horror Story Coven. I love.
Oh
Coven.
My gosh!
Absolutely loved Coven. My favorite.
And
Murder House. Murder House.
But yeah, just don't give up.
There's a few of them that I really want to check out because thematically, like
Hotel just got fucking freaky. Hotel was just freaky.
Well, that was based on H.H. Holmes, wasn't it? So
yeah.
I mean, there's certain themes like I might not watch them in order. I might jump around based on what I
Oh, don't do that because some of them have crossovers.
Oh, do they?
Crossover. They all.
I'm glad you warned me. I'm glad you warned me there.
And the crossovers are also
they all tie in at some.
They all tie in.
But then the crossovers are also in the American.
I thought every individual season was just its own thing. I didn't realize they cross over.
Well,
they are
1, 2, and 3. They don't seem like they're connected, and by the time you get to the fourth and fifth, they start connecting things up. So
then they do a little bit more ahead as well. But also, American Horror Stories has 2, maybe 3 stories that connected to the original American Horror Story series. So it's interesting. I don't know. That's my advice. Watch it.
They're all on what, Netflix or whatever.
Disney. All on
Disney here.
They're not going to be on Disney over here though. They'll probably be on Hulu.
It's an FX series or whatever.
Yeah,
FX.
Probably to be on Hulu here. Okay.
It's on Hulu. All of them are on Hulu.
But besides American Horror Story, I also watched an animation. I don't know if you ever heard of. It's called Hilda. It's a cartoon animation. It's on Netflix, and I watched only season 3 because I had watched the first 2 series. And
what is it?
It's called Hilda. It's a story about this little girl living with a mother, and then it's in a Scandinavian country, and she goes and meets all these magical creatures, and there's a lot of folklore from the Norse mythologies and stuff. It's beautiful. I personally love it. So I mean, all the voices are very British. So, but I like it.
I love British voices. I just love the accent. But as soon as Keith gets back stateside, he'll just sound like a schlep like the rest of us in Texas. He's going to sound so confused. He'll have
If you
like a
like,
British
I can speak more. I
slash
can
New
speak more
York
British if
slash
you like.
Texan accent. He'll be totally fucked when you get here.
I can speak more British if you like. I just don't speak very British over here because the stuff that I said would get me fired if I had a British accent.
You're probably a conversation piece, I'm sure.
There's those things I say over here, and they just look at me and go, "Bless, he's American. He doesn't know any better."
The tolerance.
I mean, Dominic can attest to some of the stuff I say out loud at work.
I'm not. I'm
I
not. I'm,
believe
I'm not
it.
going to. I'm not going to repeat any of this, to be honest.
I could just imagine. I could just imagine.
But yeah, besides watching this animation, which I finished, then I started watching a Japanese animal called Myoji. Probably not very well known, but it's about this guy who's basically doing exorcisms and dealing with spirits and ghosts and demons and stuff. I love it. My stuff, basically. But yeah, that's it for me.
I'm all up into exorcism. I haven't been to a good exorcism in at least a decade. I miss ghost hunting.
Other Japanese exorcisms, might be a little bit different, but
yeah, fuck that, man. Those people go all out, man. This is not normal. I'd rather have a good old American exorcism than the Japanese ones. They don't have any filters.
Oh, speaking of which, I was at Barnes and Noble the other day, and I saw Exorcist Believers out on Blu-ray, and I'm like, I still
don't do it, Joe. Don't do it, baby.
I don't even want to watch it for free on Peacock, let alone buy it.
It's fucking bad, Joe. Have you seen it?
I haven't seen it yet. I haven't.
It's so disappointing.
Do you have
There's a few jump scares.
Do you have the other Exorcist on Blu-ray?
I have 1, 3, both versions of 4.
Okay. Because I'm gonna say I can imagine that. Probably by the end of next year, they'll probably come out with a box that will have 1, 2, 3.
I bet you're right. I bet you're right.
And actually, now that I think of it, the only reason I own both versions of 4 is because I saw both of them at Dollar Tree. So they were $1.25 a disc. I was like, all right, I'll take them both.
They got some. Yeah, they do got some deals. There's a whole bunch of movies. I need to go probably ransack.
But they ended like always doing like a box set that ends up being a lot cheaper in the end. So,
yeah, like the.
I mean, I've been buying them as I go. So, I still have. I have both versions of the original, the theatrical version and the version you've never seen, which is now, ironically, the version everybody's seen because it's the only version readily available.
Yeah.
What about you, Vicky? What have you been up to?
Not much. Just doing a lot of Christmassy stuff. A lot of cooking. It's been cold in Texas, so I've been baking like crazy. I gotta watch it.
What constitutes as cold? What constitutes as cold in Texas?
36 degrees is cold for me. Okay, it's cold. I'm old and I have arthritis. I don't like the cold. I don't like the cold. It doesn't. Yeah. I feel like a human barometer.
So basically, Vicky's spring weather.
I'm so used to it being it's been 108 down here for like 2.5 months. I'm just totally just not ready for this shit. It's gonna be 67 today, so life is good. What did I say? Huh?
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say I finally got a chance to watch Predators. It's the only one I've not watched ever. I love it.
Is that the Halloween set one?
No, Predators. The one where they're all they get kidnapped.
That's the one in the jungle where. Okay, yeah, that one was actually
the Predators
pretty good.
Throw them on. I keep hoping they'll make a second one. That was really good. I liked that one a lot.
I think they were going to, but it didn't do as well as they thought it was.
They probably didn't, but it was good for like a rainy day movie. I enjoyed it.
It's a good film. I saw it in movie theaters. I like that.
Yeah, and I followed that up with Aliens because it was a rainy day. I don't know why. That's my favorite alien movie with Sigourney Weaver's Aliens. And I watched Monarch again last night. There are monsters in Monarch, right? It's the series, or is it a soap opera for the people who work in Monarch? There are no fucking monsters.
I've only seen 2 episodes so far, so I'm
up to episode 7, and I'm getting huffy. You do have monsters in your Monarch monster series.
Yeah, it's weird because we have 3 running Godzilla series now.
Yeah. Did you see the trailer for the new Godzilla with the Godzilla Kong?
I hated that trailer.
I didn't like it either. They're marveling out.
That's terrible.
It looks like they're marveling out. That's the only thesis I have for it. You know what I'm saying?
It looks like bad animation because
it looks stupid. Maybe I'm wrong. It's just a trailer, but what the fuck?
Well, I mean, another thing is you got to remember it's got another year before it comes out. It's not coming
Yeah,
out. It's not coming out to Christmas 2024.
but
Wait,
Godzilla turns
understand.
pink though. Why is Godzilla turning pink? Godzilla is not pink.
But I'm wondering if it might have something to do with the simple fact that they it's not there's going to be if it's coming out in December 2024, there's probably a huge post-production thing. So that's a
Possibly.
year's post-production.
That's
so what you're
the
seeing in
thing
the
I'm not
trailer is probably like
understanding
all
is
But it's
why
gonna be a huge,
post-production.
huge
why
money,
are you
money
putting out
spender.
these trailers with unfinished effects?
Yeah, I know.
You're
I
right. That is a good point, Joe. That is.
No,
It
I
looks
agree with you.
shitty. It looks shitty the way it is. I'm not excited about it. When I saw Godzilla -0 trailers, I was like, "Yeah, I saw me."
I think what to be honest, I think the reason why they rushed the trailer out, I think is because Godzilla -1 is done so fantastically well that they want to get on the bandwagon really quickly, and
you're probably right, but it's a totally different monster.
Because what I'm thinking to myself is this: is like, why are they coming up with a trailer a year before the fact?
Yeah.
Yeah, they might be wanting to catch some of that momentum.
And that's the only thing that makes sense. Because if you look at humans in a whole, 4 to 5 weeks from now, they're not going to remember that trailer even came out.
Right.
So,
yeah, we're constantly getting bombarded with shit. So yeah.
So that's like, why are they doing this?
I don't know, but I was all excited.
Normally when you get like a year before anything comes out, what you would normally get is like a sound effect, a ripple effect, and then it's like coming soon. Godzilla versus King Kong. Something, you know what I mean? But you don't get like a full trailer. Like that's what's kind of weird.
Well, the trailer
you get like a teaser. You get a teaser trailer. So it's like
a full trailer of unfinished effects.
Yes, precisely. There you go. And I finally watched the ever popular and mutually divisive Barbie. I don't understand why anybody's mad about this movie. It's about female empowerment. I do not understand why I thought I was going to see
because it's about female empowerment. That's why they're angry about it.
It's actually a good movie. I thought
who was angry? Who was angry about it?
Oh, you had the lefties and the righties. One of them thought it was patriarchy. And this one thought they were making fun of men. This one was making anti-toxic masculinity. There was people arguing about that. Everybody, right, left kind of stuff. You know what I'm talking about, Joe, over here?
I know what you're talking about. And, you know, I mean, the movie does. The movie does obviously have a political message. Obviously,
I didn't really think that. I didn't think it was that.
Well, you just said it's about female empowerment. That is a political message.
Well, yeah, but the feminists were the ones bitching about the movie. I thought it was very empowering for women. I mean, Barbie had her whole world and she ruled like she did when we were little girls. I just don't understand. It was a very
don't you think that? Don't you think now with these leftist and right groups that when anything becomes popular, all of a sudden to get their 15 minutes of fame or
you're right.
Get people to notice them, all of a sudden they'll say something really negative just to sit there.
Margot Robbie can do no wrong in my book.
I find the people who lead these kind of groups, you know, it doesn't matter what side you're on or whatever.
It doesn't. There's always an asshole.
There are people that's craving fucking attention. Yeah. And the problem basically is that people are giving them that attention.
That's the sad part. It just perpetuates the BS.
And the thing is, and then what happens is that these same groups, a year later, all of a sudden have a different opinion. They go like, "Oh yeah, I actually really enjoyed it now. I revalued it." It's like, what?
Oh, I thought it was. I loved it. I've been watching it again. I thought it was.
It's a fun movie.
It is. It's just a fun, good feel. It's a good, fun movie. There's nothing. I didn't see any insulting to the right or to the left. I didn't think it was insulting to men. You guys might think something different.
Nah. I do find it.
Was that movie where the lefties were bumping off the right people? What's it called? It came out and everyone's like in arms about this movie.
The Hunt?
The Hunt. And then you watch The Hunt.
I still haven't seen
that. It's a really good film, but it's like this film is like, it's like everyone's like, and then you watch it, it's like, what the hell's the big deal? Because both sides were made fun of. One side wasn't better than the other. So it was well equal, and it took the piss out of both sides, so you actually realize how ridiculous both sides are.
That I did appreciate of. I did.
The
I like
idea, this idea people have that movies are suddenly now political is movies have been
They've
movies have been
always
political
been
since Charlie
political.
Chaplin was making movies about income inequality 100 years ago.
Yeah.
So the idea of politics in movies is nothing new.
But I mean, it wasn't the kind that the movie that was pushing shit in your face and trying to be offensive. It was just
Warner was making what were called the message pictures in the 30s, like Midnight Mary and Heroes for Sale and that stuff. That stuff's always been around. It's just now we have this fucking cottage industry of people telling you should be angry at this movie for its politics, whereas I don't think we had that 90 years ago.
I don't think we did.
But the thing,
I mean, you're going to tell me Casablanca's not political.
What I'm wondering is this: I have a friend who works in PR, and their job is to get as much free publicity as possible,
whether it's good or bad.
So, isn't it possible that the PR companies are perpetrating this kind of madness?
Very possible.
To be honest, if Barbie did not have this kind of stuff going on behind it, might not have been as huge a hit as it was.
Maybe.
So everybody's like, oh, I need to go see that now.
Well, it's not the big hit. Godzilla is the big hit now.
Casablanca.
I loved it.
Casablanca is political as hell. I mean, even if you go into like a movie like Death Wish, where you have very right-wing politics at play.
I don't know if I saw it as right-wing. I just saw it really as a man who was pissed off and
it's a vigilante movie.
It's a vigilante movie. Anytime anything's a vigilante movie, it's a right-wing. Because
I guess it would be. I can see that.
Because the process is basically right people. If something bad happens to them, they want to get revenge.
Well, I can imagine left people wait for the court to deal with it.
That's the left-right kind of situation as far as a political.
But I would kind of think we all are different here political wise. But I mean, I would still think that as men, whether you're Democrat or whatever you are, that you would be pissed if someone did that to your family.
But what I'm saying is what you find in films.
You're still a man.
No, but what you find in films in general is that if a leftist or a liberal person, something bad happens to them or their family, then what you have is the movies where they're trying to get the court system to work for them in a proper way. And if you got a right propaganda film and the same thing happens, then the guy takes a gun and he takes the law into his own hands. So it's now the thing is, both. I mean, to be honest, most people
probably watched all the Death Wishes last week.
Now let's take reality now. Reality is that we would all fall somewhere in the middle if anything like that happened to us. So it's like
I don't know.
Look, right now,
there's a lot of us.
We would all be torn whether to be the vigilante or get the police to do what they need to do. So we'd all be somewhere in the middle somewhere.
I'm literally dealing with this right now because a close friend of mine was murdered in June.
Right. Somebody hurt somebody you cared about. Of course.
We're human beings, though. I mean, it's whether simple fact is let's take a simple car accident. Let's sit there and say that some drunk driver, hits somebody and, it causes the death of someone you know. Now, the thing is, it was an accident. The person shouldn't be driving. It wasn't malicious on their part, but you still kind of want, you still want retribution. And but that doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It just means that, and the thing is, at the end of the day, when it comes to humans in society anyway, and whether you want to go biblical or not, it's all an eye for an eye or a tooth for a tooth. That's why we have the prison sentence anyways. That sort of stitching. So, having those feelings is completely natural, and that's why we all, and that's why outside of films, that's why we're all like in the middle situation. We want justice, but part of us really would like to go out there and just shoot them in the head.
And the civilized part of us,
it's like, but we all want that.
And the civilized part of us, for the most part, tends to win out.
Yeah. How many vigilante crimes are out there?
Probably a few. We probably don't hear about them as much, though. It's
remember the guy in New York City? Someone went in New York City. Remember him?
But you're just like the isolated cases. But I'm sure if and you look at how many people get murdered.
Right.
A year.
No, I've actually
and to be honest, it's like, and I'm sure if people were going to Charles Bronson on people's asses for this, I'm sure we would hear about it. That's all I'm saying. So,
No, I guess nobody is. Well, every once in a while, like that guy that got it. Well, I guess they didn't put him in prison. He molested his son. He blew his head off on freaking live news. I was like, holy shit. I'll send you the clip. He did.
Yeah,
He
but,
blew him
but
away.
the reason why he did that is basically because he couldn't face the shame and the consequences of his dirty deeds.
No, the
He chickened
father
out.
of the child shot the pervert in the head on live
Oh,
TV.
okay. Well,
He
yeah,
just blew him away. Just like let that. I would have
but
been mad if they let him out too.
the question is how
You
did
know?
the father get who allowed the father to get so close to him to be able to do that?
I don't know. I don't know. Well, this is sort of like I think our Secret Service is screwing up too because the president was standing. He was doing something the other day ago. They were screaming to him something, question. And all of a sudden you heard boom, boom, and it was a car hitting another car. And the Secret Service is just like looking around. Well, usually when you hear something like that, are you supposed to throw him in the
Yeah,
car?
jump on them. Yeah. I didn't even hear about that.
It's like they're all sitting there looking around. This is like, what are you doing? You're supposed to throw him in the car.
But I think Biden's like shares. Like even after nuclear war, the only things that'll be alive will be Biden's share in cockroaches.
Jesus
I think
Christ.
he's just talking about.
I didn't even hear about this. Like it was like a car accident within earshot of where the president
they were
was.
catcalling to him about the polls or something. He says you're reading the wrong polls, and then it's a video clip. You're reading the wrong polls, and then a car runs into another car. It sounded like a big boom, but the Secret Service people commented on it though. I'm going, the Secret Service didn't. They were just standing there like, oh, what's that? You're supposed to immediately grab.
Yeah, you're supposed to immediately grab the president and get him out of there. Yeah.
They might have. I mean, to be honest, they're probably out of practice.
I think they hate their detail, to tell you the truth.
I think they're out of practice. It's been about 20 years since anyone's tried to make an attempt. I mean, between the 60s and the 80s, there was a lot of attempts, so they had a lot of practice.
Well, remember Reagan when he got shot? I was like,
I was going to say, I don't think there's been an actual attempt since Reagan. The worst that happened to Bush was somebody threw a shoe at him.
Yeah, that was funny. Just like, damn, she missed him too. I couldn't stand it.
I think Reagan's the last actual attempt on a president's life that I could think of.
Yeah.
There was a couple people jumped on stage when after Trump won.
There was some guy who got arrested outside the White House last year. But
they're usually just goofballs with mental health issues.
Yeah, that guy wasn't going to get anywhere. You're going to try to jump the fence and run into the White House. You're going to get caught.
Yeah, you're not going to get too far. I don't care who.
You're not going to get far at all.
People crack me up.
Yeah, how do we get around to this? The politics of Barbie versus
I just thought it was I thought it was like uplifting female movie. I didn't think it deserved the beating up that it got, is what I'm saying. And we all know how I am.
I mean, it also made over $1 billion. So it's
it did pretty
people
good.
were clearly not paying attention to any of that, and they were just going to the movie anyway. Which
I just thought it was a fun movie.
If you hear a movie's good, go to it. If you hear a movie's good, just go to it. If you disagree with the politics, you disagree with the politics.
Right. I'll just turn it off if it gets too much for it.
There's a conversation you could have about that later. But don't let people dissuade you from seeing a movie over politics.
Yeah,
because the other one, I haven't seen it yet. The other big one on the political thing was The Sound of Freedom, which I haven't seen yet.
I get a box of tissue. That really wasn't that bad either as far as politics. It didn't go after anybody. It was just about the child trafficking.
I think that's the thing is I haven't seen the movie yet. I don't know if the movie itself is political or if
really.
People adopted it and added their own twist to it. Barbie, I feel, definitely had a political bent. It definitely was a pro-feminist.
I guess. I just didn't think nothing of it.
I still enjoy the movie. It's still a damn good movie, I think. I really enjoyed.
I just love Margot Robbie. I love Margot Robbie.
And I sent you when I was watching Barbie. I sent you guys a message. I saw it like 2 months ago or something, and I just joked. I was like, in mainstream movies outside of porn, has any woman ever had her feet fetishized as much as Margot Robbie has?
Uma Thurman and Kill Bill.
Kill Bill.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's yeah. Well, I mean, one of the movies I was going to reference was her in the Tarantino movie Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where she's playing Sharon Tate and she's got her feet up on the theater seat, and the shot is of her feet. In Wolf
She's
of
got
Wall
cute
Street,
feet.
there's that scene with her and Leo DiCaprio where she lifts her leg up and puts her foot on his face. In this movie, she's got her. I was like,
oh, that's right. They do that with her feet, don't they?
this woman's feet
What
so much.
what about Death Proof? The whole
Which
opening
one?
credits is Sidney Poitier's daughter's foot, isn't that for the whole thing? Like
Yeah.
waving.
Oh,
waving
and
up
yeah, even again, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the young girl who's starting to break out now, Margaret Qualley. Her, yeah. So, like, damn, Quentin, calm it down. But Margot Robbie, outside of Tarantino movies, has even had her feet fetishized a lot, and I'm like, wow.
Well, because feet are usually ugly, and if you find somebody that has a pretty pair of feet, I guess you gush over them.
I guess it's just strange to me that that's why I made the joke of outside of porn has any single actress had her feet highlighted in as many movies as Margot Robbie has.
I can't really think of one.
Yeah, because it's pretty prominent in all her movies. I'm gonna have to go back and watch the Harley Quinn movie, but yeah. So yeah, I enjoyed Barbie too. God, what else have you been up to, Vix? Or do you want me to move on to Keith?
That's it. We can move on. We just tangents ourselves out for 40 minutes.
All right, Keith, what have you been up to?
I haven't been up to a lot. Had the Christmas party yesterday, which is quite good. They're all preparing for my farewell party on the 11th of January, which is going to be an all day and all night event, apparently. So
everybody's going to be so happy.
Well, I mean, it's kind of weird because I mean, the worst thing is that they all wanted pictures yesterday, so I hate having my picture taken. So that was an hour of hell.
Oh, just those people care about you.
Oh yeah, it's your last
throw them a
Christmas there,
bone,
so
Keith.
yeah.
Just throw them a bone, Keith.
Oh,
it's always like that when you're leaving a job. It's
but it was nice.
It's hard.
It's definitely always hard.
Television viewing. My whole television viewing's been filled up with Fargo, the TV series, because it's come back. So that's. I mean, I started with season 1, and I'm now in season 3. I mean, what a brilliant series! I mean, it's one
Which
of
series?
Fargo.
I haven't started watching it yet. I heard it was great. I got to start watching.
I mean, I went back to like season 1. I mean, they're not connected individual stories,
right?
I mean, the Colin Hanks in the first one is fucking brilliant. I mean, Colin Hanks is an unsung hero of mine. I just think he's one of the best actors out there, and Keith Carradine, and then you get second one with Patrick Wilson, and Kieran Culkin and all the other stuff, and Kirsten Dunst, and then of course you get the third one with get Ewan McGregor playing twins, and the stories are and what I think I like about Fargo, without giving anything away, it starts off with one person making a small mistake that involves the turn just goes over and over and just leads to murder and all this, and all because of one small mistake.
I loved the movie. The movie was fucking hysterical.
Yeah, the movie's fantastic. I actually recently bought the movie on DVD because I was like, wait, how do I not have a copy of this?
Yeah.
It's a great movie.
What struck me as you were just going through the cast is Keith Carradine, Kieran Culkin, Colin Hanks.
Right.
You have all the less famous siblings or kids in this movie.
And the thing is, and when you think about it, those siblings are actually better actors than they're the ones that get all the best notices. I mean, you look at Colin Hanks. I mean, how many great notices does he get? Or you look at Kieran Culkin. He's doing a hell of a lot better than Macaulay ever did.
Yeah, well, he's doing a lot of serious roles though too.
Well, but the thing is like if you look at him in Succession, alone, and you look at River's Edge and all these other things that he's done to his career, it's like he's done some critically sounded work of art. Colin Hanks, whenever you see him, is critically very sounded. There's no missteps here going on. And we look at Keith Carradine. If you look at him, I mean, everything he does is very. I mean, he has never done the schlock, has he? He's always done the.
Yeah, he's always been the one who has been very selective, whereas Robert and David. Well, David Carradine and John Carradine did a lot of schlock. But David Carradine's kind of sad because what happened with, well, I mean, aside from his death, but what happened with him was he made all that money on Kung Fu. He went into trying to produce and direct. He funded his own movie and it flopped hard. And
that's painful, isn't it?
And he ended up in his father's shoes where he was just doing, whatever was going to pay him. And a lot of
and he's such a good actor too. That's so sad.
Well, I think with David Carradine, though, I think the problem with David Carradine is the period that he came out, because all the roles that he could have been doing, Peter Fonda got.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true.
So, and I
do you think there was a reason for that? Was he passed over, or?
No, I just think. I mean, to be honest, I don't know what. I mean, Peter Fonda's got. He's got.
I know he auditioned for Easy Rider.
Well, he's got Jane Fonda and Henry Fonda backing him up, so that, I mean, there's probably a lot more connections there.
I mean, and also when you think of Easy Rider and who was behind that was the Corman camp, man. And he came out of that Corman camp too, because that's Nicholson, Hopper.
Peter Fonda's one big line in there. Somebody stole my sickle.
So with David Carradine, I mean, let's not disparage his career, because
That's what I'm saying. The Carradine
Kung Fu was a huge hit.
Yes, it was. I remember watching it.
But see, there's a big difference from being, let's say that you're Humphrey Bogart.
Back then, at least, TV versus.
But let's say that if you're Boris Karloff's children compared to Henry Bogart's children, Henry Bogart's children probably would be giving a lot more notices, a lot more opportunity, because one's horror, schlocky horror, and the other one's, child of an Academy Award winner. So that's why the different situation is. I'm not saying that the Carradines are bad actors at all. That's not what I'm saying.
No.
I'm just.
I get you. I know what you're saying.
I would imagine that in the Hollywood way things are in Hollywood, I would sit there and say the Fonda name would probably open a lot more doors than that Carradine.
Oh, I bet it would.
Oh, definitely, definitely. Like you said, Academy Award winner. The star of The Grapes of Wrath versus the third guy to play Dracula in the Universal series.
And if you look at if you also look at the sister's career at that same time, outside of her politics, which is probably you got to amaze for someone whose politics were so against the American society at that moment, and still be going forward without it.
Barbarella.
I think also
forget Barbarella.
At that point, I mean, I wasn't alive for this, but I think at that point, public opinion on Vietnam was probably swinging forward on the Jane Fonda side at that point anyway.
Yeah, but I guess what I'm saying is that it didn't dampen
maybe a little prestigious.
It didn't make her prestigious, because the thing is a lot of people were not going to see her films, but at the same time they're still giving.
I'm talking about the Fonda name because of her dad.
Yeah, well, I mean you're still doing like Cat Ballou, Clute, Barefoot in the Park.
Barbarella. I was going to say, who can forget Barbarella?
At the very beginning of her career, because she was dating Roger Veedham at the moment, wasn't she?
Even I watched Barbarella.
He cast her and her brother as lovers. He then went on to cast her and her brother as lovers in Spirits of the Dead.
Yeah.
Shit.
Which was fucking weird.
But so what I'm saying is that so when you got that going on, of course Peter Fonda is going to be offered better roles as well. So,
I mean, Peter Fonda in the late '60s was still relevant because of Once Upon a Time in the West. So yeah, he was still riding high even then, because that movie was a masterpiece and hugely successful.
And he was part of,
and he's also part of the film culture, counterculture at the moment at that time as well. It was like
that's true.
So was Peter, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he was definitely counterculture. Peter Fonda, hell yeah.
Yeah. And of course, he did Race with the Devil, which we all love.
I love that movie. I do love that. I just wish we had one more shot at Laura Parker. God dang it, that makes me sad.
I'm sure we can find something.
So, but other than that, just getting things ready for Christmas and wrapping and all the other stuff, and then got the week off. So we probably watch one Lion King for next week's podcast. See both of those.
Yeah, I've seen them already. I've seen that other one. Well, I had kids when the Lion King came out. I know that, but I could sing that whole thing backwards.
Yeah, actually, thanks to doing this podcast, I got off my ass and just went, you know what? I want the original Lion King on Blu-ray. And I went and picked it up because I'm like, this gave me an excuse to finally get it.
And it's good when we cover
I haven't seen the remake yet. I'll watch it for next week. I'm not going to blind buy that one. I'll just watch it on Disney Plus and we'll see how it goes. If I do like it, I will buy the Blu-ray.
It's not heinous, but it's not as good as the cartoon. At least I don't.
Well, yeah, we'll get into that next week once we've all seen it. I haven't seen the new one.
Lion King's covering Shakespeare. It's King Lear, isn't it?
It is.
But other than that, not much. Just getting ready for the festivities for Christmas, not Halloween, for Christmas.
I'm always ready for Halloween.
And what about yourself?
I'm always ready for Halloween. Christmas, not so much.
Well, as for me, last week, the first episode that I worked on for Joe Bob Briggs aired, and I stayed up late, and I stayed through the Ginger Dead Man again.
Don't get me going about the Shudder app that night.
Actually, no. What ended up happening was Sean had to subscribe to Shudder because for the second time, this has happened to me twice now. It's happened to a few people that I know. I went into Shudder, and when I went to click on a movie, I went to click on A Christmas Horror Story early because I was like, I might as well just get it out of the way. Right. And it was telling me that I'm not subscribed, even though I am. And then when I went into see plans, it said, "Oh, you're already subscribed." So I'd go back to try to watch a movie, and it would tell me I'm not subscribed. And I'm like, "Oh, I'm not going through this." So Sean ended up subscribing last week, just so we could stay up and watch it.
It's still on still on by the web. Does it have an app yet?
Oh yeah,
what's that?
Yeah, the app, it's both the app and the web are telling me the same thing.
Because in this country, Shudder doesn't have an app.
Yeah, they do.
Shudder doesn't have an app?
They do.
Not in this country.
Oh, not in the UK.
They gotta have. They don't? I thought you had. Well, you don't have to have the app on Prime, but I'd rather have the app because it's not interactive on Prime.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like, and I wish they had it because here, what we have to do is have to log into a website that's Shudder, and I mean, I could do that on my Xbox, but I'd rather have just an app where I could just click on it and up it comes situation.
Yeah, the drawback with the Amazon version is you can't watch the live stuff.
No.
Yeah. And Joe Bob, all you get is the commentary about the movies. You just get the in between breaks. You don't get the movie with it.
I think that depends on the movie because it depends on the rights in different countries. Yeah, because I've heard people in Canada, like sometimes they can't watch the movie; they'll just see Joe Bob's break-ins. I've heard that from people in the UK that sometimes they can't get the movie.
I told you guys, you got my login for my VPN, you goof.
Oh, yeah, I know, but it's just I don't want to really watch it on my computer. I'm being lazy.
Well, cast it from your phone to the TV.
Yeah, well, I could do that. I don't know.
That's always an option.
I mean, I did watch the show though. I did see his breakthroughs. I got to see everything within an hour and a half. So
well, the thing is with Shudder on Prime is you got to wait for Joe Bob's next thing to come out 3 or 4 days later because they don't show it till like Monday or Tuesday.
That's what I'm saying. You can't watch it live.
We got it 24 hours later.
Takes me 2 or 3 days on Prime. That's why I got rid of it and got the app.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which totally dicked me over last Friday, I might add.
But yeah, I had to sit through the Ginger Dead Man, but I waited to see my first credit on Shudder, and I'm like, yes.
You didn't like the Gingerbread Man, Joe?
I mean, it's
a movie that's probably better seen once, and that's it.
I already had to watch it twice this year. Once to put in all the break times, and the second time to log everything that happens for Joe Bob's notes. So this was the third time.
I have to say it's really cool seeing your names in the credit. That was really cool.
There are other movies that I can't say what they are yet, but there are other movies that I'm like, no, I will watch this again when it airs, and I will happily watch it again when it airs because the movie is fantastic. The Ginger Dead Man is not that movie. Sorry, Charles Band, if you're surely not listening because he's making probably 10 movies. I thought it was
bizarre. I thought it was oddly bizarre.
I mean,
it's so weird looking.
The really cool thing is they had Robin Sidney, who's the lead girl in the movie, and she's now Charles Band's wife. She was on there, and she was talking about how legitimately terrified she was of Gary Busey.
I bet. That's right. Gary Busey was in that. That's right. That's what made it even more bizarre.
Gary Busey was the Ginger Dead Man. He's in one.
That's right. I forgot about his part in it. Yeah.
And then after he dies, his spirit inhabits a gingerbread cookie.
It's really, and the gingerbread thing looks like him.
I will say this. I've seen all of them. I like the 2 sequels better because I feel like there was a lot more going on in the sequels.
You just got to smoke a lot of weed when you watch
it. I'm just Gary Busey. I am so glad he never did a 3D movie.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Yeah. The second Ginger Dead Man one happens, takes place on the set on the studio. And everyone's trying to make their movies, and the Ginger Dead Man's just killing people off. And the third one, if I remember, because it's been a few years, I think he gets transported back in time to the 70s. And it's called Saturday Night Cleaver or something like that. It's Ginger Dead Man 3, Saturday Night Cleaver. And I think he's attacking a roller rink in the 70s. Those 2 are a lot more fun.
I haven't seen that one. Oh my god. I'm so looking for it.
I think they're all on Tubi.
They are. I'm so watching. I didn't see that one.
I never saw the Evil Bong crossover. Ginger Dead Man versus Evil Bong, I never saw.
Oh my god, I haven't seen that either, but the Evil Bong is some seriously fucked up shit.
First Evil Bong has an interesting cast because he had Tommy Chong and Bill Moseley and those people. Yeah. But
Bill Moseley, anytime he shows up, I get all excited when I see him.
He's
like, all right, Bill Moseley.
Again, it's been a few years. I think he's a patron in a strip club or something. But Charles Band, if you're listening, nothing against your movies. I like your movies. He's not listening. He's making 25 movies today. He's not listening.
Yeah, he ain't.
He's like he's right now. Right now, he just came up with an idea that he's going to shoot tomorrow.
Has anybody informed James Gunn of the movie we want done and we want credit for the idea?
I was listening to the podcast the other day and I was like, that actually would make a good idea. That actually would be fun.
I'm still waiting for James Gunn to make our movie.
Warner's apparently broke, so. Besides that, that was the coolest thing in the world. Thank you, Justin Martell and Austin Jennings, for giving me the opportunity. I've loved doing this job so far.
I'm so happy for you.
It's brought me so much joy, even if the movies don't always bring me joy. And you guys will see some of the movies that I've had to go through. And to be fair, when Austin sends me the list, sometimes I'll be like, I'm sorry to do this to you, but this is the movie.
That's sort of like when Joe Bob did Cannibal Holocaust that one time, and he's going, we were going to go here for this one. We're doing it. Like,
yeah, that's one where he gave the option of you could just watch just my segments without all the animal cruelty.
Jesus, man. I still love the documentary I watched about that movie and how the fucked up this shit that happened with that movie and after that movie.
And how all the actors, Ruggero Deodato paid them to not leave the house or anything because he wanted everyone to think this was real. And then they brought him to court because they're like, well, these actors disappeared. So they had to have them come to court. To be like, no, we're actually still alive.
I know.
The marketing completely backfires on you. Besides that, I saw The Holdovers, which is really, really good.
I haven't. Scott wants to go see it. I'm gonna have to take him.
Paul Giamatti is excellent in it. It's a really, really good movie. Alexander Payne, excellent director. I love the look of the film. I love Paul Giamatti's dialogue. Is always so witty and spot on. It's absolutely fantastic. The story is heartwarming. I mean, the story's nothing reinventing the wheel. it's very similar to like, Scent of a Woman and other movies like that. So you've seen, you've seen this kind of movie before. It's just really, really well done. And in the age of everything being a giant blockbuster tentpole movie, something like this, which 25 years ago still would have gotten acclaim, but it would have been seen as, oh, okay, it's another movie in a line of these kinds of movies. Nowadays, it feels so much more fresh because everything else that's coming out around it is a Marvel movie, a DC movie, a Godzilla movie, an Indiana Jones movie, or a movie about a doll. So there's always like, just, it's nice to have a nice character-based movie about human beings, which oddly enough we don't get much of anymore.
Not anymore. You're right.
So yeah, The Holdovers is fantastic. I also randomly, because it's not one of those 50 movie box sets, but I actually really, really liked it. I saw the cast and I was like, let me check this out. A movie from 1936 called Winterset, which stars Burgess Meredith, a very young Burgess Meredith.
I was gonna say he's really young.
he was like, I think like 27 or 28 when he made this.
What year was it?
1936. So he plays the son of a man. Well, all right, it starts out with these guys are walking down the street. They steal a car, and they use the car to be seen at the scene of a murder. And John Carradine, who, oddly enough, we were talking about the Carradines a minute ago. John Carradine plays the father in this home, who owns the car. And even though he's home when the murder happens, because his car was there, he gets arrested. Because he had political leaflets in the car that were seen as pro-communist, he was kind of railroaded into being executed for the murder. 16 years go by, and some academics are reevaluating the case and finding that there really was no evidence to have him executed. And at the same time, the now grown-up Burgess Meredith is in the small town trying to find the men who framed his father. It's based on the Sacco and Vanzetti case.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
The movie's in the public domain. It's on one of those 50 movie box sets.
I've already found it.
You already found it, yeah. It's actually very, very good. It deals with the idea we were just talking about, the idea of, do you go out to get vengeance?
He is young in this.
Yeah, he's very young in this. So yeah, it just caught me by surprise because I looked at it and I was looking through this box set and I'm like, wow, this looks interesting. It sounds interesting. I like the cast, and Stanley Ridges, who I really like, is one of the monsters.
Married to Paulette Goddard either. I didn't know he was married to Paulette. Yeah,
he was married to Paulette Goddard. I thought for a second you said she was in it. I was like, I didn't see her. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. Did not expect to. I thought it was just going to be some. It's based on a Pulitzer Prize winning play, which I didn't know of. But I expected it to just be like, a trashy little crime movie from the 30s, and it's way, way more than that. A lot more than I expected.
That stuff. You haven't steered me wrong yet on the oldie stuff. I usually end up loving it. So.
It's just a hidden gem that if I didn't have this 50 movie box set, I wouldn't know about.
What 50 movie box? What box set you got?
I think this one was called Action Classics. It was like I think I picked it up for like $5 or something on Amazon.
Oh, shit!
And it has 50 movies on it.
That's a fine. God.
Yeah, a lot of times they're just cheap public domain movies just repackaged together. And I love those box sets because you do find gems like this one. Like even looking right now, I have 50 movies, chilling classics, sci-fi invasion 50 movies, 100 family favorites. And like I love all these box sets because you always find like these little gems, and they're cheap. I mean, the quality's not that great on the the video.
Oh yeah.
Nobody's going to restore a movie that is in public domain.
They're not.
But I really, really enjoyed it, and I was surprised that I did. But yeah, basically that was my week. I can't think of anything else aside from the the movies we're going to discuss in a minute. So I guess on that note, let's get to it.
Okay.
A Christmas Horror Story is a 2015 Canadian anthology horror film directed by Grant Harvey, Stephen Hoban, and Brett Sullivan. It premiered on July 20th, 2015 at the Fantasia International Film Festival, had a limited theatrical release on October 2nd, 2015, along with a VOD release. The film is a series of interwoven stories tied together by a framework story featuring William Shatner as a radio DJ. And I guess what we'll do now is we'll cut to the trailer, and we'll be right back with Christmas Horror Story.
Christmas. Christmas, the most magical time of year.
Tell me we will find the perfect Christmas tree.
It's Christmas. Christmas is all about forgiveness and family and tradition.
Santa, lots of kids are depending on tonight going off without a hit.
But in Bailey Downs this Christmas, it's different.
Exactly 1 year ago, last Christmas Eve, the school was the scene of an unimaginable crime.
And you still want to go down there just for some stupid school assignment?
It gets through any door in the school.
This is Krampus, right?
What's a Krampus?
He's like an anti-Santa Claus, a demon who punishes the naughty. He whips them, chains them up, stuff like that.
That's fun.
It's the elves. I fear they may all become infected. How did it all come to this?
We're trapped down here, and there's a psychopath on the loose.
Bring the changeling back to the forest. That ain't your son.
Did you not see what he did?
The atmosphere here in Bailey Downs is truly grim this holiday season. It's the war on Christmas.
And welcome back to Literary License. We are discussing A Christmas Horror Story from 2015. And starting with you, Keith. I know you were a huge fan of this movie, so let's start out on a positive note.
Yeah, I think Christmas Horror Story is to me, it's kind of like the next step from Trick or Treat that we'd covered earlier. Because the interwoven story, but a lot of the people who worked on Trick or Treat worked on this movie, apparently. When I first saw this movie, I got really excited when this came out, and I was like, I mean, I didn't know anything about it, but it's one of those movies I watched. It's like, oh, this looks interesting. Watched it, loved it. I was managing. I owned a literary agency at that time where we that we represented authors, and one of our authors had a podcast. So basically, I got in touch with everyone who did this movie, and they interviewed them. So I got the talk. I talked to them before. I passed them over to this before we had our podcast, and they were such lovely guys and stuff like this. And what I like about this movie, and this is what's very odd, is that this has 3 different directors.
Yeah.
But you would not know that because they all interlock so brilliantly. And the thing is,
they're like 4 different stories. It should be like a Christmas stories.
Yeah.
Or 4
one director did 2 stories. The other directors did 1 story each. So what they did, they all went off and just did their own thing. And then all 3 directors got together and go, okay, now we're going to edit this, and this is how we're going to interlock it. And I thought, and the thing is, you watch it, and it's just seamless. You would not know that there's all these different.
I wouldn't have known. I wouldn't have known.
Well, the music. I mean, the opening credit songs with the Carol of the Bells. It's Christmas. It's like, and then it just gets darker and darker. And I love the arrangements and the music, and that was a friend of theirs who did all that. So it's kind of like, and
are the adults just twits in this? Do you think they?
Well, the thing is that what's fascinating about this is that though Trick or Treat, they are interconnected. This movie, they're very interconnected because the family, the Krampus family, is William Shatner's children.
Right.
That's his daughter. So you got that, And then you got, but if you look at them, they're all connected. Every single thing's connected. Like, the Santa Claus shooting up is the guy at the radio store, the radio shop.
This Krampus was rather disturbing, wasn't he? Was it disturbing looking Krampus?
He was beautiful. I thought to be honest, this Krampus,
he was beautiful but scary.
He was beautiful, and there was something very striking and sexual about him as well. But
yeah, that's what I thought. He was a buff Krampus. What the fuck? I'm not supposed to be sexually attracted to Krampus. What the hell's going on here?
The guy he played Krampus is 6'9".
That makes sense. He's huge.
Yeah.
For real in real life?
Yeah, yeah. Because I was looking him up, sort of thing. And another thing that I also like about this is that a lot of it is practical effects, and they went to, and the only time that you see CGI is when they go to the North Pole, and because the reason why they use the CGI when they go to the North Pole because it's fantasy that's not really going on.
Yeah,
and that's what I love.
That story, that's the one that kept jarring me out of it, though. The Santa Claus, because it just felt like tonally, like that felt like
out of place.
While the other stories felt more serious in tone, that one just tonally with him just killing the zombie elves just felt like completely out there.
Well, and then you get to the reality, and basically those zombie elves were children that he was axing to death.
I know. Yeah, it turns very, very dark in the end.
And that's why it's like, because at first I thought, I was like, what's this Santa Claus thing going on there? But by the time you get to the end of it, to be honest, that was probably the most horrifying story of them all when you think about it.
Which one?
Yeah, with the twist.
The Santa Claus one.
Yeah.
Because you find out later that basically when he went there, those elves that he thought were elves,
right?
He was massacring children with axes. So when you see those owls basically like crying for their lives, please don't kill me. They're chill, and then it gives you a quick flash of a child.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot about that. He was the department store Santa Claus there for a minute. Can you imagine losing your shit like that and just freaking massacring everybody?
I can imagine. I mean, to be honest, more violence happens over the Christmas period, and more people murder their families over Christmas.
They don't call it the silly season for nothing.
Yeah. So that's why in a way I kind of defend the Christmas thing, because when you find out what the reality is, that's even scarier. That someone in their mind, they're seeing something that's not there, and this is what's creating this thing because his wife left him.
Yeah.
All down to his wife leaving him.
And that was such a twist, though.
To me, it's not. It's not so much that it's just until that very end, it's just a tonal shift from everything else that's going on.
And it's why is this here? I thought the same way. It's like, why is this here?
Yeah, it's so jarring because it goes from, and speaking of the connection, the family with the child that comes out of the tree, that's the sheriff at the beginning of the movie. That's a crime scene that happened at the school. So you go from that, which has this, you have this very serious, somber tone of, this police officer or sheriff, whatever he is, who clearly has had issues with abusing his family in the past and alcoholism. And you go from that, and you go from him pulling off the belt about to beat his child, the mother stepping in and stopping him, to Santa Claus is putting an axe in an elf's head. In an elf's head. What the hell is going on? So
there's this weird allegory about. It also seems like this weird allegory about bad parenting, about bad parents.
Yeah.
The whole thing was about these bad parents.
That kind of community in that kind of small town, if you're not like watching your kids and making sure that they're doing the right thing, they're going to fall off into doing, really horrible shit. Like even the little kid that drops the Krampus doll, you're like, wow, that's such a horrible thing to happen to a child over dropping a figure. And then the sister kind of dialogue that apparently he tortures and kills animals. You wonder why all our pets are dead. And the parents just apparently never paid attention to it, or maybe just turned a blind eye to it.
Yeah.
Which, I've known parents like that over the years that, growing up where it was like, no, your kid's a sociopath, not my child. My child just murdered a stray cat in the street.
You want to see something interesting is, if you ever get time, watch the TED Talk with the mother from when the Columbine boys.
Oh, I didn't know she had a TED Talk.
Talking about someone who's very disillusioned. Oh, we thought it was okay for him to have guns, and she's like, and this kind of thing is like, I'm not saying that she's at fault, but when you hear, I didn't think that she was at fault. I thought, okay, I think she's part of it, but I don't think she's at fault. But by the time she stops talking, by the time she starts talking, by the time you watch this TED Talk, and she's making these excuses, and it's a bit like that, and you're kind of going, you know what I mean? It's kind of, and it's like, it seems like she's making these excuses for everything that he did up until that point, and then after that point, she made an excuse because of this, and this, and this. But it just kind of, but at the end of the day, it does sound like someone who wasn't that involved in her child's life, and then every time they got in trouble, they made excuses for her. It's like, like if the kid, like, I don't know, hits someone over the head with a book, instead of, like, punishing the kid, well, it's because the other girl looked at him funny, it's that kind of thing. And that's what's quite funny about this, is because it's kind of like, they make excuses. Oh, but he's our little boy. Well, it's like, well, he's been killing animals. Well, he's just misunderstood, or oh, maybe we need to talk to him, it's that kind of thing. So it's kind of, and I know parents are like this at the moment. I have a friend, I won't mention her at the moment, but she has two sons, and the thing is they've done some very questionable things, and she'll condemn them, but then she'll stick up for them. So it's that kind of a weird dichotomy situation. So
one of my closest friends in high school, his mom was, every time something went wrong, he'd be like, no, not my son, not my son, that's not my son. My son wouldn't do that. I'm like, he's calling my house at 2 a.m, yelling because he thinks that this girl he had a crush on is at my house. Like, not my son. I'm like, look, it's his voice, it's your phone number. He's just misunderstood. He's psychotic.
But it's complicated because you also have society at the moment that's changing, and in school, like, parents are not allowed to, like, I don't know, slap the child anymore because that's abuse. And I'm like, well, back in the days, at least I'm talking about my experience in Italy, we were getting beaten up by parents or relatives or whatever for education. I mean, I'm exaggerating it, but
we know.
Like a slap in the face on the bum for educational reasons, that was normal. These days, oh my God, you're not even allowed to say anything.
Oh, those little punks get away with everything now. You're not allowed to touch them.
Well,
I know a lot of educators.
I mean, the put things in a little bit of perspective, though. I mean, if you look at the craze, which were this, and you look at the things like the mother, my sons, and like, then these guys are like killed. They're mafia. They're like Eastland mafia here in the UK, and they were murdering people, and the police would come and like pick them up, and the mother would be like, "Not my sons." And even though, like, then she's hiding the guns and everything. She's hiding all the murder weapons. It's like, not my sons.
That's right. I forgot about this.
So you're like, okay.
Well, what'd y'all think about the little boy? They go out and get the tree, and
well, I mean,
my favorite story.
They were the two that like when you've seen enough of these movies, because that there's going to be like some form of morality, out there. You knew that they were going to be two of the survivors from this whole thing,
right?
Because they're good people who really didn't. The mother and son are good people who really didn't do anything wrong.
Didn't you want to kill that little changeling fuck though? Just like I did, like a little bastard.
Yeah, you start thinking that, don't you? Because before you realize the thing, like at the very beginning, before you realize that that there is a changeling there, but at the beginning you're like, because you don't spend a lot of time with him as a kid, as a normal kid. You got him, and he's just kind of quiet, and he's got an asthma thing, and that's about it. So because he's like because the thing is, you see him in the back of the car, And then and all you get basically is like, oh no, we really shouldn't go into the field because there's no children. Come on, we're gonna cut out a tree. And you got like the little boy like circling behind the father. Come on, we're gonna cut our own tree. And so he doesn't say anything. So by the time he does come back, it's really kind of hard to know if anything did happen to him. I mean, we surmise that something happened, but there's not. We don't because we don't spend any time with him. We don't really get that personality change. I think that we see from the beginning.
Well, he does speak. Like the first thing that I noticed when he came out of the tree was, okay, he's very, very quiet. By the time it's been like 12 hours since your kid has said anything, maybe
there's something wrong.
There's something wrong here.
Yeah, I would notice if my child was not speaking or interacting.
Suddenly not saying anything and just giving you a blank expression. Maybe.
Well, I mean, he can put away a plate of spaghetti, though.
He definitely can. Or two. That's his second serving or third serving.
Wasn't he being a little perverted towards the mom too there for a bit?
The changeling was, not the actual son.
Not the actual son. That's what I was saying. The changeling was, not the son, not the actual son.
That's how it started.
Yeah. Well, when she was asleep, she was definitely enjoying what was going on under there, and
that's true.
Maybe the husband wasn't enough.
Nothing like having a little demon spawn from a freaking tree out in the middle of nowhere, freaking trying to get in your pants while you're trying to sleep.
Jesus Christ! But the way the father was killed, Jesus Christ, I didn't expect that. It was like, okay. Then when she realized, oh my God, there's something okay.
If there's something in that story that's going to die, it's going to be the alcoholic, abusive father.
Of course.
Just because moralistically, when you're doing this thing, that's where you're going to go.
Why the hell would you want to go cut a tree down in the middle of East Bumfuck? I have never understood.
Well, this whole town's in the middle of East Bumfuck. So
I have to admit, every time we had a real Christmas tree, we went out in somebody's field. I don't know if we had permission or not, but I know it was always in the dead of night, and we always put it in the back of the car and drove off quickly.
Yeah, we did that a couple of times. Grabbed a couple of bales of hay too.
I'm assuming that if you're doing something in the middle of the night, we probably didn't have permission, but I don't know what we did.
Usually not.
Yeah. I did wonder about I mean, the thing is and maybe because normally if the father's abusive for whatever reason, then he's kind of his competence. But I think the problem here that I had is because I think I'm under the impression that he became an alcoholic after seeing the murders of the year earlier.
Maybe they didn't really, they
didn't really specify.
Yeah, and if that's the case, then it's kind of like brings a different meaning of maybe going over the top with your child situation. Right, and the thing is, and I can understand the belt situation because I mean the kid did stab him with a fork.
Wait, but was this
saying that little fuck? I would have knocked his fucking lights out.
Wait a minute, was this before or after?
It was after he stabs him with the fork.
After the changeling.
Yeah, because he was already in bed. Yeah, because he was already in bed, and he thinks he
broke all the Christmas presents or something.
Yeah.
He opened them all and tore them
because when he
apart.
stabs him with a fork,
he gets stabbed, and then he breaks all the Christmas. So in a way, I can understand the belt. So
and then the mom keeps sticking up for the little bastard. It's like the dad knows there's something wrong. Of course, mom.
And I have to then say, because the mom kept sticking up for him, I couldn't quite understand why she was.
I didn't get it either.
I don't think the dad knew something was up, though. I think he knew something was up. The kid was acting up. I don't think he was fully aware.
Something was up. I
think probably the mother might have understood, because obviously mothers can feel. And then, but she was thinking, I was like, from my experience, this is my son. The father was oblivious, completely oblivious. It's like, oh, why is he acting like that? So I'm going to beat him up.
I think if the father was, I think if the father was a big person in the police, he probably wasn't home a lot.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah, well, he does say at the beginning, well, after they first get back with the tree, he does say, I'm sorry, last year I wasn't around much at Christmas. This year we're going to have fun, though. So, yeah. I mean, also, the previous year, what happened on Christmas was kids were massacred in the school and crucified. So, yeah. I kind of understand why you weren't home. I mean, you probably don't want to tell your 7 or 8 year old that, but
I mean, having friends whose parents were in the police force, they work long hours and very disruptive hours, and they're not home when they're going to work as you're coming home from school. So I mean, so I would think that would probably be the norm anyway, even there wasn't a murder situation. So that's why I'm kind of thinking like, so in that case, he probably wouldn't know the ins and out, the little little different personality quirks that were going on inside your son.
Yeah,
More
probably
than
not.
the mom does. Because the mom comes across as quite overprotective of the son as well.
Well, I don't know. As a mother, I know when I was a kid, when I was younger, and my kids were little, I knew their smell. They had a certain scent, soap, clothing, whatever. And you just know when somebody is not your child. I'm sorry. I would know if that little dillweed was my child or not if I brought him home and he was acting like that, It's just like she acts like she has no fucking, what do you call it? Instinct, anything.
Intuit.
I mean, I have to sit there and say that when I was growing up, my mother knew me so well that she knew I was going to do something wrong before I actually did it. So,
if I did something wrong, my mom knew immediately the moment I walked in the door. She's like, what is wrong with you, right? What did you do?
Yeah.
Well, your mother was Italian. They got that friggin' radar shit going on, let me tell you.
Oh, yeah.
My God, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And it's going to be really bad when they say your whole name, not just your first name.
The middle name, the last name.
Yeah.
Your confirmation name.
Hanging out with one of my cousins once, and I don't remember what I did, but it pissed my mom off to such a degree. But I think she was like cooking or something, so she couldn't like get to me because she couldn't like get away from the stove. So she took off her shoe and smacked my cousin in the back of the head for it. She's like, "That was meant for you." I'm like, what the fuck did I do?
These are common things like throwing slippers or using the wooden spoon.
Spoon, but I think she was using the wooden spoon to cook at the moment.
Yeah.
So that was definitely not going to happen.
What about the driving mode where they can reach back and extend their arms or feet and still drive?
Oh, such violence, such good memories.
Hey, we turned out okay.
I have to, in all fairness, I have to sit there and say that every time I got smacked, I really deserved it. So
yeah, same here.
I think one of the reasons why I never had kids because I'd be afraid to have one that was like me. I
wouldn't want your children if they turned out like you.
My parents used to warn me, like, what you do to me, your kids are going to do to you. I'm like, oh yeah. Hold up. Time to think about this. Time to rethink this whole strategy.
Yeah. I would hate to have a child with my mouth on it. I would be able to do it.
I remember once asking her, does that mean you were an asshole too?
Yeah. Oh, I was.
Were you asking if Keith was ever an asshole?
Hey, no. I mean, I asked my parents that because they were like, what you do to us, your kids are going to do to you. And I'm like, does that mean you were assholes to your parents?
The curse. Yeah, the curse. I know. You're going to have children someday, just like you.
Well, I think that's true because apparently I am just like my father. Sense of humor and everything in the smart ass mouth comes from my dad.
Must have been a dad thing. That's where I get my sarcasm. My mother's say, me and my father are assholes.
My father and I had different types of sense of humor, but he was, he was the guy who would fuck around at like a gathering. He would be the guy who would like do something goofy to make everybody laugh, and I'm kind of like that now. So
yeah. That's a good quality, though.
But I guess the story we're kind of neglecting here is the aftermath of what happened at the school with the kids a year later going into where the murders took place. I feel like that's the only story we haven't talked about yet.
No, probably because it's the toughest.
It's kind of an odd thing because, I mean, I understand being a convent and then women going there to have their babies because that's normal. That happened
That happened a lot back in the day.
Well, sometimes it still happens today. In Ireland, it still happens today sometimes.
Well, the kids broke in to do the double murder, right? Correct if my
But-
memory serves me.
Yeah. Well, no, they didn't do a double murder. What happened is they got taken over by the woman who gave birth and whatnot. So I'm not
Right.
what, and here's where I get a bit confused.
Well, they broke into the high school.
Well, they broke into high school, but the thing is that the thing that killed the original kids is the spirit that's underneath, that's in there, that was the mother who gave birth on Christmas Day. And so what did the nuns do with the baby? Was there something unholy that went on with the baby, or did she have an unholy child? Or
I think they really explained it, but I mean,
I
can
don't
imagine...
know. I thought I was going to ask you. I thought maybe I got up, went to pee or something.
I got a bit confused because first of all, you have Act 2, the for unto us a child is born.
Right.
So you have that written on the wall, and then you got this. Then you got the seductiveness. So obviously, I mean, what happened the year before, we're kind of seeing being repeated, but with 3 instead of the 2. So obviously that happened. But I wasn't quite sure what the spirit's aim was, because normally a spirit has an aim for whatever it may be,
Right.
to punish whatever or something like this. But what we have here, which amazingly enough, is that we got a guy who has the girlfriend, he's in love with his girlfriend, and she tries to come on to him, and he says, "No, I'm with somebody." So we don't have this horror, premarital sex thing that they need to be punished or whatever like that. So we don't have that. And then we got the other boy who's quite innocent, really. And the only person that's probably guilty is probably the girl who's a bit too pushy, really, which is not a bad thing. But I guess if you're looking at a morality play situation, maybe she's too pushy and she gets them caught up in the situation. But I don't understand why they need to be punished and what the spirit was trying to do here. I like the story.
It seems the spirit's motive is to impregnate. Is that it? Just
yeah. But then to impregnate to have what exactly?
Yeah.
There's never a baby. There's never a baby at the end of it. There's no. I mean, she gets pregnant and stuff like that, but just so she can go through a miscarriage, maybe. I got confused. And
I
a few times.
This one, yeah.
This story wasn't that as tight as the other.
I mean, but the thing is, I really like
it
because I'm always intrigued. It always intrigues me. I can't stop watching it, and I'm really intrigued by it, and I love the way it's filmed and everything like that. But when I start to think about it, I get a bit cloudy.
Yeah, it starts to fall apart when you start to actually think about it. So yeah, it's a strange.
What about the family that goes to see the dying relative?
Well, I can understand that because basically we have four sinners. Part of the family.
Confess everything.
You got the father who's been embezzling, the mother who I can't exactly.
Well, why did they decide to start spilling their guts? Is what?
No, basically what's happening is like you got this family and they're living it high on the hog and pretending that they're like this. Well, it's a bit like having a well-to-do family, and then it's like they have all these secrets, but outwardly they're like living, showing the world that they're like an Instagram family. It's like, oh, we're showing our best lives, but God knows what's going on behind.
Good adjective, Instagram family.
But then when you find, then you go, we're gonna go see our aunt, and then as they go see their aunt, but the main reason why they're gonna go see this aunt basically is try to get money off her because basically he's embezzled people, he's done something wrong. Then you find that she's a klepto, and then you find out that the son's killing animals, and it seems like the wife's not 100% pure herself. So
they all have a sin to cover.
And if you look at Krampus only punishes the guilty.
Yeah.
And if you think if the girl ends up the teenage girl, she must be the one with the less sin. So God knows what the mother's been up to.
Yeah.
Situation.
So would you say that most of this is cautionary tale?
I mean, well, Krampus is always cautionary tale as well.
I mean, horror anthologies, I think
better
you'll
be
often
good
find
for
that
goodness sake
too. like just this subgenre of movies, whether it's, we'll talk about the cautionary tales in the next movie too, whether you talk about this movie or Dead of Night or Tales from the Hood.
Yeah, I love Tales from the Hood.
Or even if you look at anthology TV series, Alfred Hitchcock Presents, Twilight Zone, Outer Limits, The Hitchhiker from HBO back in the 80s.
Oh God, I forgot about that one. I loved that show.
Yeah. Tales from the Crypt,
I totally forgot about that. I wonder if it's still on somewhere.
Tales of the Unexpected, Hammer House of Horror.
The anthology format has always been used to tell heavy morality tales.
So, and then so it makes sense that the anthology film would carry forward. But so I really liked the Krampus story in this one though. I liked it because
I really love the look of Krampus in this movie.
I do too.
The makeup
Krampus
effect
is a badass.
Oh my God, it's fantastic.
He just looks scary but sensual and just fucking weird. Krampus. I mean, when compared to Krampus the movie, that Krampus as opposed to this Krampus,
And I like how it's. And I also like that it's the house that the housekeeper, but the manservant. It's him.
Manservant.
And because the thing is, because that guy, I can't remember his name, but he is in he's in the most iconic movies. He's like Cube and all these Canadian horror movies, and he appears and it's like, he's one of the he's like, to be honest, he's a character horror actor for our time, basically, because he does appear all the time. He's in a lot of things. I can't remember what his name is. But I just love him, and it's like to see him there, and they find out it's like, oh, okay, because he just always has these like really small parts, but he always just comes up and appears, and I can't remember his name. His name is Julian Richards.
Julian Richards. I gotta look him up. That's gonna bug me. I can't remember his name.
Julian Richards has done War of the Worlds, Cube, Supernatural. He was in 6th, 7th, 9th, and 10th season. He played Death.
Oh, him. Okay, yeah, him. Okay,
he's Three Fingers in Wrong Turn. He's excellent. Shoot him up. I mean, he just
the original Wrong Turn, not that lame-o friggin' redo that they did.
Is there a remake of Wrong Turn?
Yeah.
Oh, he's in Beau is Afraid too.
Yeah.
Oh, he's in some Cronenberg movies because, of course, he is. He's Canadian.
Yeah. But he just appears. I mean, he just appears out of nowhere, and every time he appears, I mean, he's always like a small part, but he's just one of these people when he appears. He's kind of like that the horror actor who just appears in like all these like strange horror films, which I always love. Urban Legend. He's the weird janitor in that, and of course, Cube. Yeah. He's the first guy who gets killed in Cube, the one who gets diced. So
he is. He's just got that look about him, though.
So Davide, what are your thoughts? You've been kind of quiet through this one.
I quite liked the story, to be honest. Really liked it. Plus, can say that it's one of my favorite Christmas movie. So it brought me quite a lot of joy, to be honest. It's a different type of spin.
You should watch Black Christmas then.
Oh,
yes.
Let me write it down.
Every year I make my annual post that the best Bob Clark Christmas movie is the one they don't show on TV for 24 hours.
Which one?
Black Christmas.
Yeah.
The one with the old Black Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The best Bob Clark Christmas movie is the one they don't show on TV ever. Because it's worlds better than A Christmas Story.
Yeah, but enough for Christmas stories. I mean, they're like the same boring hypocrite message that nobody cares about, nobody listens to. So when it's about these cautionary tales, much better message. It's more interesting. It's a different twist on the like, oh, be careful because blah 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 blah. I like the approach about the teaching on the life lessons rather than just like, oh, you need to be good because Santa blah blah blah. Yes, that's fine. When I was a kid, that worked. But now that we grow up, we want to see something that's more something that can be applied in real life much more. At least that's the way I see it. But I found it hilarious the way they twisted the story and mixed it. Obviously, the last story was incredible. I felt too that it was a bit out of place, and then the final twist was like, okay, that's incredible. my favorite story was the Changeling one with the kid.
Yeah,
Jesus
I
Christ,
like
that
that
was the
one
killer
too.
father. That was my favorite part.
That
And
was
then I
kind of part of the
loved the way the Auntie Edda was killed. Basically, the twist
I
of
feel
the
sorry for the husbands though. Everybody always thinks they're douche canoes, and it's the mother that's really fucking up half the time.
yeah, but
not the
I
particular
would
story.
love. Oh yeah, sorry, and yeah, I would say that this is like probably something to other people might disagree because it's not typical to watch horror on Christmas, but I would recommend it much more to watch it on Christmas with your family because at least you get a better message than the hypocrite message we get on Christmas. But that's my view. So, but yeah,
I think what I find quite funny about Christmas Horror Story is that it came out in 2015, and horror Christmas movies were kind of rare. But after
Guys
this
are all
movie
over
came
the
out, have you
place.
noticed that we get like 5 or 6 now a year now of horror Christmas movies coming
But
out
what was
now?
last year? What was Violent Christmas or
We got
whatever?
Violent Christmas. We got the one about the kid, the kid who being
I
babies.
love Violent Christmas.
He's actually a murderer. I can't remember that, but I mean, we get about 4 to 5.
At
I mean,
least 3 or 4. At least 3 or 4.
yeah, and that's all started like after this movie came out. So I'm kind of wondering, it's because now it's like
I'm trying to. Well, we do have the next one we're gonna do. That was before, and that's a scary horror.
yeah, but what I'm saying is like we used to get like these weird Christmas horror movies, but they'd be like years apart.
Yeah.
If you go through like Christmas horror movies, you know, Black Christmas, then you wouldn't get another one for like 6, 7 years, and then it'll be like another one, and then another, and even I mean like in the 80s, I mean it's you get them, but then it'd be like 3 or 4 years before you get another one or something. Now we get quite a few every year, so it's like, I mean, this year alone, there's 4 out.
I didn't
You know,
realize.
of them, I've heard It's a Wonderful Knife is the best one.
Yeah, I liked It's a Wonderful Knife. It's a good film.
But yeah, you in the 80s you had a few Santa slashers.
Yeah.
Obviously Silent Night, Deadly Night's the big one that became a franchise.
Yeah, and that also became like one of the ones that parents were picketing about and stuff like that.
And that's what made it a hit, incidentally, because when you do that, that's what's going to make your movie a hit is the controversy. It was the movie poster, which was a chimney with Santa's hand reaching out, holding an axe. So yeah, that was going to cause a stir, and the biggest among them was Mickey Rooney going, "Oh, this is a desecration of Christmas. This is terrible." And then Silent Night, Deadly Night 5, Mickey Rooney's the lead. So much for that moral outrage. Moral outrage only goes so far when you need a paycheck.
But I kind of wondering also about the Mickey Rooney thing, because if you look into it a little bit longer, it's the same year that on TV he was voicing Santa for A Year Without a Santa Claus for Rankin Bass. I think it's around the same time.
What movie is that?
A Year Without a Santa Claus, the Rankin Bass Christmas special.
Oh, okay.
God, I used to cry when they did the Blue Christmas part in that. As a kid, they used to make me bawl my eyes out.
Yeah, I think it's around the same time, or maybe he was filming it. But I have a feeling. I got a feeling it might be 1974. I guess is The Year Without Santa Claus.
Oh, okay, I remember that. Now I haven't seen that eons. Oh my god!
Is that the one that has the Snow Miser and Heat Miser?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I remember that now.
And Shirley Booth is narrated by Shirley Booth.
Oh yeah, no shit. That's
a great one.
And the voice
every year at Target, I see the box set, and every year I'm like, I should buy the box set, and every year I don't pick it up.
You should buy it. I have the Rankin Bass Christmas box set. Rudolph looks fantastic. I mean, and Rudolph looks great. I mean, Grinch looks good and stuff like that anyway because it's animation.
Oh, the Grinch I have on Blu-ray.
Yeah, no, that's gonna look good anyway because that's animation. So, but Rudolph looks fantastic. It's cleared up and it looks really pristine.
And if you buy the Grinch Blu-ray, it also has the Grinch Halloween special from the 70s, which isn't nearly as good, but it's cool just to have it.
Yeah.
Karloff was dead by then. We weren't getting the Karloff narration.
Yeah, I have all the Rankin. I've been collecting all the Rankin Bass ones. I mean, some of them are not great. I mean, the Little Drummer Boy is like, and there are some of them that are like downright barbaric.
Nestor the long-eared donkey. I like Nestor. I love that one.
Yeah, that was one of them.
I know, but I mean, the evil men in Nestor are like really frightening.
Yeah, a little bit.
Drummer boy is kind of like,
you're a
like
little
watching
kid.
Christ.
That's just bizarre puppetry or stop animation. Is it stop motion?
Yeah, it was
stop animation.
Well, if you didn't have Rudolph, you wouldn't have Nightmare Before Christmas.
No, that's true. But they're just bizarre looking creatures, like the guy who sells the little drummer boy or tries to whatever.
That's what I mean.
He's creepy. He just exudes creepo.
What about the gay elf who wants to be a dentist in Rudolph?
That's all he wants to do. He takes out all the Bumble's teeth.
he's really effeminate, and he's the only elf that has like this effeminate hairstyle.
Yeah. Well, maybe he was into alternative lifestyles, Keith. You know.
It's true. We're just a couple of misfits. I'm not but a nitwit. But
they were unwanted because nobody liked their ass.
Every Christmas, I have I do my Black Christmas, my Christmas Horror Story, my Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, my original Grinch. I don't like the Jim Carrey Grinch, but I will watch the Filmation Fox animated computer-generated Grinch one. That's really good.
I have a little confession. I've never seen White Christmas. I'm gonna actually watch it
with Bing Crosby.
Yeah, I've never seen it.
It's good. I prefer, to be honest, though, I prefer Holiday Inn.
Holiday Inn's showing on all the channels today. You should be able to find Holiday Inn.
But my favorite Christmas one is Barbara Stanwyck in Christmas in Connecticut.
Christmas in Connecticut is great. I love.
I haven't seen that in decades.
I didn't know it was remade with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Maria Shriver. I had no idea.
Shit, I didn't know that. Are you serious?
Yeah.
I
didn't know they remade it with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, it was a TV movie.
Wow. I'll pass on that version.
I think Diane Cannon's in it as well, I think, isn't she?
I think what is he like? I'll be back. Is he like Terminator?
I didn't realize, another great Christmas movie, The Bishop's Wife. I didn't realize Diane Cannon was married to Cary Grant. She must have been like in her 20s when he was 70s.
I remember that movie.
Actually, there's a miniseries out about Cary Grant that has.
I got to check it out.
Fantastic, with Jason Isaacs playing Cary Grant. And even though Jason Isaacs in your mind's eye doesn't look like Cary Grant, but for some reason he pulls it off. I don't know his voice and everything. And it's based on the book that Diane Cannon wrote about her relationship with Cary Grant.
Gosh, I didn't know they were married either, now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, I wasn't married. I wasn't surprised. The only
problem with
the miniseries is that I kind of wish it went more into Cary Grant's friendships with like Randolph Scott and stuff like that, because that was quite interesting, but it's kind of glossed over. So
I forget who put this one out. I know it's one of the streamers.
I don't know. It's on ITV in this country because I watched it on ITV.
I'll take a look at it. I want to see it. I saw the trailer for it and I was like, yeah, I gotta check this out. I didn't realize it was a miniseries. I thought it was just a movie.
No, it's on about 5 parts.
All right, well, I'll check it out.
And it's one of those ones that basically it was on. And I was like, I'll watch one episode to go to bed, and I end up being up to 6 o'clock watching the whole thing.
Well, that's like me, Little House on the Prairie. I'm finally on season 7.
You haven't started already yet?
Going strong. Hey, like I told you, Catherine Lee Scott was in Little House on the Prairie. I didn't know she was in an episode. I saw it yesterday. Oh my God, I know that voice. Okay.
I think everyone passed through Little House on the Prairie at some point in their career.
I gotta stop watching it. I'm starting to get wholesome.
You're either in Little House or Love Boat, one or the other. Or Fantasy Island.
Yeah, I guess what we should do is probably rate this movie, starting with you, Davide. What would you, how many Krampuses would you give this movie?
4.5. The only reason I don't give it 5 is because I have to give a higher point to the next movie, which we're going to talk about. But
Oh, boy.
4.5 definitely will be
So you liked it, okay?
Oh, good. He liked it.
I loved it, but let's get into it later.
Well, we'll get to the next movie in a minute. What about
I
yourself?
love this one as well.
I'll give it 5 bloody axes.
5 bloody axes. All right, Keith?
5. It's a Christmas staple. Ever since I saw it, it's a Christmas staple. Every year I have to watch it. So that's solid 5.
Definitely.
I'm probably gonna be with Davide here on around 4.5 because like it's so good, it's so engrossing. When I was watching it late last night, I'd gotten home from work, I threw it on. Sean was still up in the living room. He didn't mean to watch it, but he ended up staying and watching the whole thing because he was going to go to bed, but he ended up just watching the whole thing. So it's that good. The only thing I would not star off is how jarring it felt. I mean, like Keith said, ultimately the story is the darkest of all of them, but it's just how jarring it felt to go from something that is played up more seriously to then go to something that seems to be played up so comedically. And I felt like it just kind of pulled me out of the movie whenever it happened. But it is a fantastic movie. It was viewing because it was on Joe Bob Briggs's Christmas special last year.
Was it last year's Christmas special?
Yeah, it was last year's Christmas special, and I enjoyed it much more the second time around. That actually got better for me the second time. So yeah, very, very good movie. It seems like it's recommendations all across the board on this one. So
I do think we forgot to mention one thing. This is probably the best thing that William Shatner has ever done. I was going to leave it at that.
What's that?
This is the best thing William Shatner has done in a long time.
I loved William Shatner in this. Don't even goof on him. He was
No, I'm not. I'm saying this is the best thing he's done in decades.
Oh, you know what? He had no one to play off of. He was totally alone.
There's one thing about that. Yeah, we were watching him. Like, it's clear they had Shatner for one day, one location, this many setups. We're gonna get you in, get you out 8 hours, and here's your check, sir.
And do you know that he ad-libbed every? They didn't give him any lines. They go, "This is what we want. You make it up."
I didn't know that. So even kudos to him. Yeah, he knocks it out of the park as this radio host who's just
Yeah, Vicky, we're saying that when William Shatner showed up for his to do this,
right?
He wasn't given the script. He was just told to ad lib.
Oh, he ad-libbed all that?
Yeah.
I didn't read that. I knew he had no one to go off of. He was all by himself, and he's one of those actors that does better to bounce stuff off of other people. So he had to totally just. I thought he did a fantastic job. I love William Shatner though. I just see William Shatner, I get excited because he just cracks me up. I mean, he's just William Shatner,
Yeah.
He's fantastic.
Kirk.
He's not given much to do, but he knocks it out of the park though. Makes it interesting.
He's just there's just something about his demeanor, I guess. It's sarcastic yet serious. I mean, I don't even know how to describe it, but he just kills me every time.
He's the magic that holds everything together.
He does. He definitely.
And the thing is, I think that's where Adrienne Barbeau's part in Tales of Halloween's missing, because she had more of a part that would hold it together.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't feel so separated. So,
yeah.
Well, on that note, let's move on to Tales from the Crypt. Not the TV series, but the movie. Tales from the Crypt is a 1972 British horror film directed by the great Freddie Francis. It is an anthology film consisting of 5 separate segments based on short stories from the EC comic series Tales from the Crypt. And I do have to add an addendum here. The And All Through the House segment was actually from Vault of Horror. So yeah, EC comic series from Tales from the Crypt by Al Feldstein, Johnny Craig, and Bill Gaines. The film was produced by Amicus Productions and filmed at Shepperton Studios in Surrey, England. In the film, 5 strangers, Joan Collins, Ian Hendry, Robin Phillips, Richard Greene, and Nigel Patrick. In the film, 5 strangers in a crypt encounter the mysterious Crypt Keeper, played by the great Sir Ralph Richardson, who makes each person in turn foresee the manner of their death. It is one of several Amicus horror anthologies produced during the 1970s, and I'll add this to it. One of the reasons I wanted to do, the Amicus anthologies when Keith approached me about the anthology about what franchise I wanted to do. So that being said, let's cut to the trailer, and we'll be right back.
From the crypt. Welcome to the crypt. You are invited on a guided tour of a world of darkness, where nightmares become reality. If you dare. Teacher, how to... Death lives in Tales from the Crypt. Who's next? Perhaps you?
And welcome back to Literary License Podcast. We are discussing Tales from the Crypt from 1972. And starting with you, Davide, what are your thoughts?
Well, the only thing I can say is what a fucking amazing movie. I never watched anything like this before. I was really impressed. I loved it. I think it was a piece of art, a piece of cinema, a piece of art, like cinema art. I loved the educational side of it. There was like life lessons in it. Although it's kind of sort of education that's sort of like, oh, you go to hell if you're bad, if that makes sense. But it kind of gave me like the vibes of like, how humans create hell in the world for all our fellow humans. And then, which is true, the story is talked about, murder, cheating, psychological abuse, and immorality and greed. But I really, really loved it. I loved it. This 5 strangers uniting in the same crypt, which, by the way, I think it was filmed in the Highgate Cemetery in London. At least I recognized it because I've been there once.
I think the beginning is.
Yes, it was. It was
at the
filmed
beginning,
in Highgate.
yes.
Yes, it was.
And I loved it. It was just incredible. I love the story. Personally, I think it's beautifully scripted. Although there was this sort of like ending twist, it wasn't really a twist because at the end of each story, the monk kind of like, you kind of knew that there was something going wrong, and then the monk is kind of like mocking them all, like, oh, you deserve this, sort of thing. Sort of. I don't know. That's the impression I had. What do you think?
Well, they do telegraph it early in the film, because if you're watching the film, they make it a point at the very beginning, before the first story starts, that Joan Collins loses her brooch in the crypt. She's like, oh, my brooch, it's gone.
Oh, yes.
Somebody gets down and finds it, and then you see in the subsequent story that she receives the brooch in that story. So this has taken place in the past. While he's telling them this is your future, we know now, because of the brooch, immediately this already happened. So they set it up. Right at the beginning that this is all stuff that's already happened.
Man, she just made an easy job too difficult, though. I mean, how hard is it to knock off one old bastard and do something with him? I mean, at first I was texting Keith. I go, I just don't understand why she's killing him. And then finally, I rolled it back and then I saw that the insurance. But I mean, who thinks that they're going to get away with that? This is just not plausible.
Well, I mean, in her case, she kind of lucked out. She didn't even know that there was a killer that escaped from the asylum in a Santa costume.
Yeah, well, that's true.
She was smart enough to put together, hey, wait a second. If I put the body outside with a poker in his hand, it could seem like this escaped killer killed him and then, collect on the insurance money.
But the daughter opened the door. I mean...
Well, that was the first thing I thought of. It's like, oh, cool, there's a murderer in the house. He can get the blame for it. This can work. You always got to be thinking, when you're in that situation.
It's funny though, when I came across this story for the first time is I bought the DVD of Tales from the Crypt, the TV series. And it had like the three of them, and they redid this. And I remember and I wasn't familiar with the 1972 version. But I remember watching that version of it. It really freaked me out.
I mean, that's also Larry Drake as Santa Claus in the remake, which is.
But the thing is, they also had.
Oh my God! Yeah, he was.
They also had 30. They also had 30 minutes to tell a story. We're here.
Yeah, I was going to say that one's a lot more fleshed out. It's written by Fred Decker, who made the Monster Squad and all that stuff. Night of the Creeps, and it's directed by Robert Zemeckis from Back to the Future. So there's a lot going on in that remake.
I was surprised to see such a small. Being done by Zemeckis, that he was such a big deal back then.
It was part of the TV series Tales from the Crypt was Zemeckis' idea. Zemeckis, Joel Silver.
Didn't know that. I didn't know it was his idea.
Who else? Joel Silver.
It was produced by Dante, didn't Joe Dante?
No, not Dante. Walter Hill.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was his brainchild. I didn't know that.
They all grew up on the EC Comics.
It's not really his brainchild. To be honest, it's EC Comics.
Well, it's the comics. I know that. But as far as turning it into a television show.
But well, I mean, this is EC Comics that we just this movie's EC Comics as well.
Right.
So, obviously they were a fan of this movie as well. So I remember seeing that and was really freaked out by going, this is excellent. So I started, whenever anyone came over, I was like, you have to see this. And then, then I started doing a bit of research because by that time the internet started becoming a bit more, and it's a little easy to get more access. And that's when I got Tales of the Crypt, the movie. Because, I've seen Torture Garden, I've seen all the other Amicus ones. For some reason, I never saw Tales of the Crypt. So then when I saw the Joan Collins one of it, it's like, yeah, I mean,
she's so dramatic. If just her, she's like, and then when he's choking her at the end, it's just like,
well,
you could have choked the shit out of her a little better. That was some serious sissy choking. I'm sorry.
Well, at this point, you got to think that the way that violence was done in 1972.
I know. So what's the word?
The thing is Joan Collins's career up until this point was in the toilet.
Well, she had her bad luck.
No, because her Hollywood career ended in the 60s. She was
still beautiful though in 70s.
Oh yeah, but I'm just saying her career was kind of in the toilet. And then she did Tales of the Crypt.
Scandals.
What scandals? I know she's full of scandal, but scandal sells. I mean,
at this point she was doing
her Hollywood career wasn't great.
Well, geez, her husband sold her to a freaking Arabian prince for one night. I mean, I feel sorry for her. They used to pimp that.
Yeah, but no. But what I'm saying is that Joan Collins's career was not fantastic. She went to Hollywood. She's beautiful, but they gave her the red dress to do, which flopped.
Right.
The remake of The Women, which flopped. And it's really hard to find a successful Joan Collins movie when she first went to Hollywood. And then she went back to.
Well, Dynasty was her big thing.
Well, she went back. She went back to England. She did Tales from the Crypt.
Right.
And she did a bunch of bad things. And then what kind of brought her back was she did 2 films based on her sister's books, The Bitch and The Stud.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about Jackie Collins.
Sex stories. And then of course that would lead to Dynasty. So at this time it's like she there's an interview about that Joan Collins interviews her life, and it's like a 3-part interview. And
she had quite an interesting life.
And she talks about this, and she said that, when her when her, because after this she would end up doing Empire of the Ants. So
I forgot about that cheeseball movie.
I like her 70s B movie run more than anything.
I do too.
I like the cop thriller she did in Italy. Like, she was doing like violent cop movies in Italy. She was doing this. She did another anthology horror movie called Tales That Witness Madness. That one is not related.
I've never even heard of that.
Films, but that's the one where she has a husband who leaves her for a tree.
I have never seen or heard of that.
I mean, she I think she does a Tale of the Unexpected, or she does a Tale of an Unexpected episode. But one thing is, she's had like a mixed match, and when she talked about this, and she said her agent goes, "They want you for this horror movie," and she's like,
"That's where old movie actresses go to die."
But she said to him, she goes, "Don't you think my career's in the toilet enough?"
Yeah.
And he goes, "No, there's this," and they told who the cast was. And he goes, it'd only be a week's shoot, but they'll give you up to the top billing for it. And she's like, "Okay, well, I'll do it." And she said that when she did it, she was so surprised that after all these years, she said that people and children come up to her who are now adults and say that they still remember all her work, past Dynasty, all the other stuff that she's done. This is what she said. For some reason, there's just people that whenever she does signings and stuff like this, they'll have like Tales of the Crypt.
I mean, it's so good.
Somebody remembers something you did 50 years ago, 40 years ago.
But I mean, if you think about it, I mean, the thing about the story, and what led me to this basically was the TV version. But then when I saw her version, it's like, and even though the Zemeckis version's better polished and it has this freakality, but this actually eerie. This still settles in my soul. This version, it's still there. It's him at him at just the window,
bringing the Santa in, the little girl. That's the disturbing part. The little girl bringing Santa in.
Part of it is also, I think, that the Santa Claus here versus the Larry Drake version,
right?
You could see why a little girl might see this Santa and not think anything of it. The Larry Drake version, you're like, come on.
Well, he's crawling up the side of the house, isn't he? Isn't he crawling up the side of the house in the newer version, or is that?
Yeah, the newer version fleshed out the story a lot.
It's the ladder. He goes up the ladder.
The ladder. Yeah, I got a both confused. I watched both of them because, of course, Joe had to tell me there was another one. So,
but the TV version of it has the Santa Claus Larry Drake version, and it's Larry Drake as if he was drawn in an EC comic.
Yes.
Where this version is an old man who's probably been playing Santa all day, and he has that look at a department store. So he kind of has that. It's not that outwardly range look, and I think that's what makes this a bit more unsettling. Because he just is like a friendly old man.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I could totally get why the little girl would let him in, thinking, "Mommy, it's Santa Claus," and that's the part that gets you with this version. Both versions are excellent, by the way. It's a shame that the Tales from the Crypt TV series is kind of disappeared. You gotta find the DVDs. Although, if you look hard enough, and all through the house, Vicky did find it on YouTube, so you could definitely get that episode on YouTube. But yeah, both versions are great. I love both versions of the story.
I'm surprised it was on YouTube. Joe goes, "I can't find it anywhere." Oh, hang on a sec. Oh,
well, I have the DVD, so I didn't need to find it anywhere. So I didn't really look. I was just going to throw on the DVD regardless.
Yeah, I had it on VHS, so I never got it to DVD.
But that was a redo then, right? It was
the version that you saw on YouTube with Larry Drake and
what's her name?
The gay teacher that gets slashed in the shower in Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Marshall Bell. He's the stepfather in this version. In the newer version, I should say, the stepfather in that version. But yeah, I love both versions of it.
And interestingly enough, this story is in a comic book form in EC Comics.
Yeah, it is. And actually, all these stories here came from a compendium of EC Comics that Milton Subotsky, the producer, was given as a gift because he had never read the EC Comics in their original form. So,
I have to this day, my favorite comic books were the EC Comic horror books.
I have a lot of the remade versions. That were re-released like in the last couple decades when they put out the hardcovers. Like you can get them on Amazon. They were expensive, but I have a few of them.
They're worth it though, I think.
Absolutely, they are. You can and not only that, but Two-Fisted Tales and the suspense stories and all that stuff. They were all fun. They were all cool.
My dad had a couple of these horror things. I'll be honest, I think I still have them somewhere, but I think they're back home in a trunk somewhere.
What's that?
These
Movies?
Tales of the Crypt, EC
like
comic.
the old VHS.
No, the book.
No,
the books. God, I used to have all that stuff. Just like the Walking Dead comics, it's like I could shoot myself. Nobody's gonna think this is worth money. Gave all that shit away when I was like 26. Oh my God. Original Walking Dead comics, even. It's just like
I think I still have a couple of my dad's comic books. I just gotta go when I go back. Now when I'm going to Met States, I have to go see if I still have them somewhere because I think they're in the trunk with my other high school stuff. Probably eat by moss.
So the next story was, if I remember correctly, this really is a movie where I feel like there's three like A-level top-notch stories and then two stories that are good but don't quite reach the heights of the three. I don't know how you guys feel about them. The second
one story sticks out a whole lot better than the others. So
I'm wondering if we're all going to be in agreement as to what that one is. Because
the next one, Reflection of Death, I found was a bit odd.
What's that?
Reflection of Death, the next story I found was a bit.
That's the next one. I was trying to find the title. This is the one that the guy's trying to leave his wife and family for a younger woman, and what's that?
What else is new?
The secretary.
Yeah, this story, it's fine. It just, man, it feels like the way this was paced out, it feels like this story was a placeholder in a way. And not that there's anything necessarily bad about this one. I just kind of feel like it's just, okay, it's kind of there. And one thing about these stories, they all are very brisk. Like they're all only like 10 to 15 minutes long, so they are fast. They do not drag at all because they get to the point right away. And this one does too. You got the guy who's leaving his wife, and he falls asleep in the car with his new woman. He dreams that they get into an accident. And when he wakes up, he's a zombie. He's walking around. He can't understand why everybody's like afraid of him. Yeah. Goes to his wife, looks in the window, sees she's with a new man, gets upset. Dude, you're about to leave her. So I don't know what you're upset about.
Do you know that this is the story on this though? This one particular, Crypt Mass. Are we on Crypt Mass?
No, we're on the one about the car crash.
Okay, well, I was just reading ahead for some reason. Did you know that the comics on this one, they said that at a Senate hearing on comic books and juvenile delinquency in October of '54, that publisher William Gaines could only muster a feeble defense of his lurid products. I didn't know he got in trouble for his comic books.
No, that was part of the 50s scandals about that. Like we had in the 80s, the horror films. In the 50s, it was in the late 40s, early 50s, that comic books are ruining our children. They're depraving our children. They even did that with the comic book. The whole comic book series even had to go on with like Superman and Batman and all that sort of stuff.
And had they actually read one of these, they would understand that the purpose of these stories is to teach a moral lesson.
Yeah, but they don't.
It goes back to last week. Oh, we got trouble, my friends, right here in River City.
Yeah, that's exactly. It happens all the time.
But it's just easier to point fingers without even doing any research and to polarize yourself and say you either also on my side or that side. They do it all the time, and it's always going to happen. But it's bad, but it's never going to change. They do it these days. Even when we talked about the Barbie movies, and people just saying, "Oh, I love it because blah blah blah. I hate it because blah blah blah. You should watch. You shouldn't watch it." And it's like, why don't you watch it just for watching it and taking it as it is? This is exactly the same example. The story should be, the tales should be listened, should be watched for what they are: entertaining, teaching a life lesson, and it's a horror. There's nothing political about them. There's nothing
it's kind of a bit
bad.
it's a bit like when you see a banned film and then you watch the banned film. It's like, God, if you actually watch this, is like, because you banned it, you actually gave them more money than if you just let it go out. No one would have watched it because it's not.
But again, but again, here I disagree that there's no like, you know, there's no like, oh, you know, politics and like the idea of like I support this candidate here, but there is a political there is a political moral thing to this.
I would call it, but I would call it philosophical motif rather than political.
Philosophical, but at the same time, you know, it's there's the morality of this, and you know the second story. I mean, you know, it is what it is. You know, again, I'm not saying it's bad, but
I did like it. I think it's I think it would have benefited if it was a black and white story, because I think it's the zombie makeup that kind of like, oh, it kind of pulls you out of it a little bit, because it's good up until that point, and then when you see him, I mean, you kind of figured it, but then when you kind of see him, you're like, okay, and then his girlfriend's blind. Yeah, I mean, maybe she like felt his face, like, oh, can I see what you look like, and then let me feel your face or something. I mean, I maybe, but but I think it's also the morality tale is a bit like, so he's being punished for leaving his family and living with the girl that he loves.
Yeah, but
I think the morality tale is a bit, for looking at through our lens, it's a bit iffy now. I mean, I guess in the day when it's more family values and divorce is bad, and
I think it's more how he does it.
Yeah,
because he's lying to his family and just abandoning them.
Mm.
As opposed to, I'm going to leave with this woman. I'm going to do my part to make sure that you're able to take care of my kids. He's just going to disappear.
But I also think the way he's disappearing doesn't seem to be too far from the family home. Do you know what I mean? Because she ends up moving into the place that they're going to move into.
Yeah, and within walking distance.
He's on foot, so he's able to get there. And it's like, it seems to be like, you know, she's in the town and he's at the next town over, the next city over. So it's like, it doesn't seem to be that far. And, you know, and in English terms, things are not that far away. I mean, you know, half an hour drive here is considered like you're miles away. So I guess there's that as well. And
maybe he's just not doing it well. He's just not good at it.
Well, what aren't you doing well?
And the girl,
he's just not good at the whole leaving his wife, sneaking away, leaving his wife thing. If he's just going to move one town over.
He's not very fluid, is he?
Well, and there's kind of this dirty old man thing going on. And I think it's that, and I think, and that again, this is looking at it from today's society lens, because it kind of like this old guy with this young dolly bird.
Which I think this was Ian Hendry, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, this was Ian Hendry.
Not old, but you know, he's probably younger than we are at this point.
Let's see.
But Angela Grant, who plays the girlfriend.
Yeah, he's younger at this point. At this point, when he made this movie, he's younger than I am now.
Yeah, but he looks old for whatever reason.
And the next year, he was in the awesome Theater of Blood, which is one of my favorite Vincent Price movies.
What movie is that?
He's in Theater of Blood the very next year.
Theater of Blood. Oh, yeah, I haven't seen that in a long time either. I'm glad you reminded me, because everybody's gone now, and I can watch all my trash.
But I guess he's also in The Bitch. Speaking of Joan Collins, he's also in The Bitch. Joan Collins. So yeah, there's.
But the one who played the wife, I mean, the girlfriend, Angela Grant. I mean, the thing is, if you look at her career, all her careers are in those sex comedy films in Britain called the Carry On films, and she was the dolly.
A lot of them were the same people that were behind these movies too, which is
So to see her like in this, so you have him who's looking a bit like a bank, because Ian Hendry always kind of looked like a banker. you know,
Yeah.
and going after this young Dolly Bird who's basically known in British cinema as like the young pretty Dolly Bird who, with the big boobs sort of thing, and then putting them together in this, it's kind of so he kind of got this kind of weird thing going on anyway. So he leaves his dowdy wife for a pretty girl. That's what it comes across as. It's like, and you think, okay, well, he deserved to die because of that. So that's that. I think that's the reason why I found the morality tales, looking at it from our perspective today, doesn't pay off as much as the other ones do. I think that's the problem.
And you know what? Yeah.
I think if we were in a piratical society and that we were all like, if we were all like Mormons or something, we probably would say, yeah, he deserved it. Or why didn't he just marry both of them and keep both? No, I'm kidding. But I think that's probably the problem with this story. But maybe at the time, maybe it had more of a payoff.
I feel like it's more the idea of the abandonment more than anything else.
Yeah.
Because nowadays, yeah, if you leave your wife, that's one thing. Right. But I think it's the idea of abandoning her to go somewhere else, to go away with this other woman. Even if it's like Keith said, he's literally the next town over. So I don't know what the hell. One guy who definitely does deserve it, though. we're gonna get to the next story, which I'm glad nobody else has ever done this story. I know in The Walking Dead, Greg Nicotero is such a big fan of Peter Cushing's makeup as a zombie that in one of the recent seasons of The Walking Dead, he had a Peter Cushing as Grimsdyke zombie in it, and there were photos going around online because he wanted to pay tribute to it. This is, man, and I don't even want to, this is a pun that wasn't going to be intended. I feel like this one actually is the heart of this movie.
Yeah.
Well, the poetic justice story.
Yeah.
That's my favorite film. 100%.
Wait, which
one's sad?
Which one was your favorite?
So I thought you were talking about the next story already.
Yeah. The one about the Peter Cushing.
The old man.
Peter Cushing as the very lovable, innocent widower, Grimsdyke, who his wife has passed away, and all his joy in life is to get these broken toys, because he was a trash man. He gets these broken toys, he fixes them, and he gives them to the children of the neighborhood. The children of the neighborhood and his dogs are all he has.
Oh my God, this one just tore my heart out of my chest when I watched this one. It's like,
and you get the fucking prick son of the guy who owns the mansion across the street, who all he could think about is how this poor old man who's on pension is lowering the property value by just existing. That's all he's doing.
See, I think
he starts rumors about who knows what he gets up to with the kids.
He's the ultimate sweet. It's so bad what he did. I just please don't do that to the old man.
But if you look at Britain at this time in 72, the class system here was very much in play as well.
Oh, that's right. This was filmed in England.
So you still have like your middle class and your poorer class, and they never should the two meet.
Are you the one that told me you're not supposed to talk bad about the poor?
I mean, yeah, it just, and the thing is, when you think it can't get any worse, it gets worse. The cards and the letters.
I mean,
I think they used this in Heathers when they did that to Martha Dump Truck with the letter. Right. But you're like, oh my God, and then he just gives up.
Well, I mean, because the whole time he doesn't know that there's this guy conspiring against him who's trying to get his dogs taken away by destroying.
Oh, when they took the dogs, his only goes, they're my friends, and it's just like, not the dogs. I mean, I would go bat fucking AR.
But you know what else, which is quite interesting, and we kind of covered this when we were talking. The thing about that, someone can say whatever they want to, and people just jump on the fucking bandwagon without even questioning it.
And that's what he does.
What's he doing with your children in there? And all he does is whisper to one mother, and all thing that the whole neighborhood.
Yeah, that was that after the dogs? Was that before?
Yeah, they
or
took
after
the dogs. They came and took the
dogs first.
The kids,
and then he starts his campaign.
The dogs.
Yeah, the kids left, and they took the dogs.
Tells the parents, God only knows what he gets up to in there with them. So he's intimating he might be a pedophile.
Right. Exactly.
Oh my God, you horrible, horrible fucking person.
But they took his dogs. No, you do not take an old man's dogs. I mean, seriously, for some elderlies around here, especially, their dogs are their life. They're their best friend. And just to do that to somebody, that's so realistic to me, because there are assholes out there like that.
You know what made that even worse is that when one of the dogs comes back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that dog is the reason they find the body, because that dog's just yelping the entire time.
I know, the dog's in there barking. Oh my God! It's just oh my God.
But it kind of made me reflect on stuff like when I was growing up and stuff like this. And like you always had that person in your neighborhood when you're in a small town or whatever like that or whatever, and that there's these stories about them.
Always,
we had that one lady, that poor woman. She was such a nice person too, and people just said,
the Witch of Watertown.
She was a Jewish concentration camp survivor. I mean, all kinds of shit.
And we
she
had,
got damaged in a fire, didn't she? Or something
well, no, the Nazis burned her. But
I couldn't remember how that happened.
Yeah, the Nazis burned her. But
she had a lot of money too.
But the thing is but you get these stories and all things like that. I mean, I mentioned it before. I won't go into it. We had a guy named Chicky, and it's kind of like funny, but there's these stories that he's away from him, that he's a child pedophile, da da da. And it's only before my dad died I asked him about it, and couldn't find out that he wasn't. He was the guy who fell in love with another guy. He got in a car accident. The guy died. That's it.
And they said rumors about him because
he was gay in 1962.
Yeah, I guess people.
And the guy was 2 years younger than him. The guy was 18 and he was 20.
Oh boy,
he's really died.
The cradle, wasn't he?
Well, no, but the thing is like but the kid that he was with probably was I think he was part of a prestigious family in Sackett.
Was that back home?
1962. The guy who used to ride his bike up and down the road. He was, of course, but they go, keep away from him. And that kind of reminds me of this story in this situation, because the thing is that happened in 62, up until this guy died, us kids, because we were told to stay away from him, we would pass this story on from person to person.
Yeah.
So basically this guy was ostracized and he died like in 1990. That's almost, that's 30 odd years of this story being perpetrated because of a vicious lie that someone made up.
Yeah.
And it's so easy for people to believe the worst, isn't
it? Well, they do. I mean, the thing is, you get it on the internet or whatever. It's like people just sit there and say something, and the next thing you know, it's being passed, or someone's making a TikTok of something that they think is facts, and they're not facts, and it's just passed, and everyone just jumps on it. But no one asks questions like, "Well, I haven't seen that for myself. Where are you getting it?" And no one, and that's what quite interesting about the story, because they just take this guy's words like, why doesn't anyone go, "What proof do you have?" That's all you have to say. What proof do you have?
Because he uses the easy button, which is he's coming for your kids.
Yeah.
And that is all it takes.
And the thing is, but no one says, how do you know that? That's all anyone has to say is, how do you know that? Where's your proof? Where are you getting your information? That's all you have to ask.
He even says, who knows what he gets up to with those kids? Well, why don't we ask them?
Yeah.
That was a sad story. He was just a nice old lonely man that was nice to the kids, and you could see, especially him being male, where that was going to go. I just that one tore me up a little bit, especially when they took the dogs. So I just
and another thing another thing that he perpetrates is he lives in a dirty pigsty.
Yeah.
And then in the end, you find when he goes in there, he goes, "This place is spotless."
Yeah, they were.
A guy who's a trash collector is going to keep his house spotless because he's around garbage all the time. He doesn't want to be around it when he gets home.
But the thing is, no one, but everyone disagrees with it. No one goes,
Yeah.
have you been
No
in
one
this?
takes up for
No one
him.
asks.
Nobody.
Simple question. Have you been in this house? Where are you getting your information? How do you know this? Take it for granted.
And the thing that really is the worst is that it's all done for malicious reasons.
Yeah.
Well, that guy's just an
personal
asshole.
malicious reasons because you wanted to gain his property.
Yeah, he just decided to be he wanted something, you go and get it. He had the money and he thought he was above everything.
Well, he just looked out the window one day and goes, I don't like you.
Yeah, exactly.
All it took. That's all it took.
And,
I don't like you.
And I do want to get into a little bit of background on this one because this was 1972. This was made. Peter Cushing, fantastic actor, fantastic. He was doing Shakespeare stuff in the the 40s and 50s, and he met his wife who was an actress. They married. She got into she got sick in the early 70s. He took a break from acting to take care of his wife. His wife passed away right before this movie was made. And if you've read Peter Cushing's autobiography, or if you know anything about him, his autobiography stops when his wife dies. He lives another 25 years. He does not. His autobiography came out in the late 80s. Nothing that happens after his wife dies is in the autobiography.
Why is that? Did
he was just completely.
He loved her.
She was his entire life. What's that?
Yeah. Well, I didn't know he'd stop writing or just anything. I didn't know he got to that point.
No, his autobiography he wrote many, many years later, but he doesn't cover anything after his wife dies.
Okay,
and
I did not know that.
Wars. He's in Star Wars after his wife dies.
Yeah, because his life ended when she died.
Huh?
His life ended when she died.
That's the way.
His life ended. He was
in his autobiography. He says that the night that she died, he ran up and down the stairs in his house, hoping to induce a fatal heart attack.
Oh my God! I can't imagine somebody being that in love with me or caring that much. Jeez, can you imagine somebody grieving like that?
You know what's funny, but there's another horror icon. Same thing, Vincent Price.
Vincent Price, Coral Brown died. Yeah,
Coral Brown died. It was like
Vincent Price was alive like 2 years after Coral Brown died. She died while he was on the set of Edward Scissorhands. He found out while he was on set.
That's true. That's true.
He continued filming. But Peter Cushing, this movie, and maybe this is why this is such a good performance, because is him, man.
But then I kind of wondering in this performance, knowing this now, I wonder if the original script had Valentine's Day cards in it, because now this makes it even crueler.
Oh God, yeah. Dang, only you would think of something like that.
Well, I mean, be mine, and and all these love cards coming through, and then they're like and then there's this nasty settlement to him, and he's like really excited. He's got some posts, and he opens up, and each one has this nasty settlement in it. But then it's Valentine's Day, and he's just getting over the death of his wife.
And the first thing he does is he walks over to his wife, and he has the Valentine's in his hand. He's like, "Well, you're still the only one for me, my love."
Yeah. That whole sequence there.
That's so cool. I mean, that he loved her so much. I mean, because you don't see that. People don't in it for the long haul anymore, baby. They're not.
If you look it up on YouTube, I think it's still there. In the late 80s or early 90s, as Peter Cushing was wrapping up his film career, he bred a rose, and it's called the Helen Cushing Rose.
No kidding.
So she could have something that could live on. And I think the video was on YouTube because I think they did like a BBC thing. Like it's only like 10, 15 minutes long.
I'll have to check that out. What's it called? Do you remember?
You know what? Let me see right now on YouTube. If I look up Helen Cushing Rose.
Well, you don't have to look. I mean, what is it about? Was it just Peter Cushing doing about his rose?
Yeah, or just Helen Cushing Rose. It'll come up easier that way.
Oh, I can remember that. I've never heard of this story. I think it's definitely heartbreaking.
I mean, but then to make this even worse, I mean, after his wife died, he lived 10 years after she died.
20.
20 years after she
20
died.
years after, yeah.
That has got to be, that's just a living hell on earth when somebody you love so much dies on you, and you know that you've got to be here longer. You only got them, you're going to miss them the rest of your life. I mean, that's
Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing were really, really close friends. So he would stop by and see him. And Peter Cushing he was so struck with grief that he would take every single part that came his way if it was possible, just so he didn't have to think about it. So that's the level, and I think that probably adds to this performance here, because his performance here is amazing. And
is this around the time his wife died when he did this?
Same year, I think.
Same year,
or I mean, they might have been filming the same year, but this came out the year after.
Well, that would definitely. I mean, you can feel the performance. See, I didn't know any of this. This kind of explains a lot for me, because it was so sad. God, was it sad? I was so hard to watch, and it was a horror skit. I mean,
the only bad thing I could say about this segment, I think the guy deserved a worse death than what he got.
Yes. But it's gratifying when you see the look on his face when you see the Grimsdyke zombie come at him. And speaking of which, we were talking about the makeup in the previous story and how that really wasn't that good. The makeup in this story is fantastic.
Yeah.
I guess it depends on who's doing it, though, too.
Well, I mean, they have the same crew on every. I mean, these weren't done like in separate directors. It's one director, one makeup person, everything. But I think the first one, I think they wanted to give a nod more to the EC Comics, because the makeup for the zombie looks like what you would see in an EC comic, where the Peter Cushing.
That makes sense.
I think the Peter Cushing one, I think they went with their own design, maybe.
Yeah,
I'm gonna watch that again, just because I want to.
And Google Greg Nicotero, Grimsdyke zombie. He recreated it for The Walking Dead. He recreated a zombie that looks like Peter Cushing in this movie. He did it as a nod to this movie.
You know what's really funny? I remember you know what he did? I know it was political and it was meant to be a stab, but I thought it was funny. But I think it was season 6, they had the Donald Trump zombie came out. Was it season 6? It had to be around 2015, 2016, because he must have just come down the escalator. But it was so funny because it was a Donald Trump. I kept looking. I go, is that Donald Trump? Like, I thought it was a great zombie. It's like, yeah, I loved it. I'm sorry. I thought it was great. I mean,
yeah, I don't think it's political to say he made a zombie that looked like Donald Trump. If he did, he did. It's not political.
No, I mean, it was probably a stab because he doesn't like him, but I really actually enjoyed seeing it.
Well, to be honest, personally, if they did a zombie of me, I'd be more than happy.
Yeah, dude, I would be like,
I would love it if someone make a zombie of me. I want to be a zombie. I want to die bloody in somebody's movie too. So Joe, start making movies. I want to die bloody before I get.
Everybody has told me, like, if you make a movie, kill me off in it. I'm like, I can do that. I could try to do that. But yeah, Google Greg Nicotero and Grimsdyke zombie, and you'll see the pictures. They have side by side pictures of the zombie that they created. First time I saw this, I didn't know it existed. The Tales from the Crypt movie. This is the one that stood out to me. This is the story that stood out to me even then, because it was when I didn't have cable growing up. So in the early 90s, they started airing the Tales from the Crypt TV series on Saturday nights on Fox. They were edited, obviously, for television. But I remember seeing in the TV guide that there was a Tales from the Crypt movie that was going to be on at 2 p.m., so I watched it. And I didn't remember anything about it initially until a couple years later when I watched it again, a little bit more grown up. Right. And I remember the poem at the end of this, which, you were mean and cruel right from the start. Now you really have no heart. On Fox, that's where they cut it off, because obviously they weren't going to show a disembodied heart.
Remember how people used to scheme and just freak about shit back in the day on TV? Now it's just like, damn, man, full frontal. Like, what has happened in the last 20 years?
Any time of the day.
Like Spartacus on Netflix. If you want to see good-looking, full frontal men, there you go. Spartacus.
You can see in this country. You can see Full Frontal on Disney Plus because they own Fox. Who would have thought? Who would have thought that you turn on Disney Plus and see Rocky Horror Picture Show?
Yeah, true. But I mean, yeah, true. There's a lot.
Uh,
There's stuff on Netflix that I don't want to actually watch. But
Does anybody have anything they want to add about this story before we move on to the next story?
yeah, like I'm cool.
I had to sit there and say that. I had to sit there and say that everyone's performance in this was spot on, though.
Absolutely.
Even the horrible. I mean, even the horrible guy. As soon as you see the horrible guy, and before he even opens your mouth, you're disgusted with him. Before you even know what his plan is. So that's great casting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, if no one's got anything else to say, we'll move on to the next one, which is
he's cool.
One that up until recently I didn't really understand why this guy was being punished, but he probably got the worst death of everybody here, or the worst post death. It's a take on the monkey's paw.
Yeah.
And yeah, the wife finds the monkey's paw. She wishes for lots and lots of money, and her husband, who's been embezzling, and that's the reason her husband's been embezzling. So yeah, she wishes for lots and lots of money. He has a huge insurance thing that pays out a ton of money. Then comes the second wish, which is, I wish that he would come back just as he was right before the accident. They wheel in the corpse, and he died of a heart attack at the wheel. And then you have the kicker, which is, well, I wish he was alive right now. I hope he never dies.
It is forever.
But he's already been embalmed. Absolutely twisted. That's the worst. That's the worst death anybody in this movie gets, bar none.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an odd tale because, this story reminds me of, and it has nothing to do with this at all. But there is another asylum anthology we'll cover later about the one with that they want the flute and it has the rope the magic trick with the rope that goes up the note, and this has that same kind of feeling about it. I don't know why I get these two confused because and look, I mean, knowing the story and seeing this again, for some reason I don't know why I get these two confused, but they feel like the same, but they're not at all.
Yeah, and that's actually in Vault of Horror, which is the direct sequel to this one.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to just add maybe it's got the same cast or something, but I don't know. But
I
do like. I mean, I do like it, but for some reason, in my mind, I always get this confused with that other story for some reason.
They are similar in tone. I feel like yeah, maybe I'll keep an eye out when we rewatch Vault of Horror.
Yeah, maybe it's got the same people or something. Maybe that's the link.
I had not watched Vault of Horror as often as I've watched this. I like Vault of Horror, but this is a far superior movie. So I've shown this to people. Like I'd be like, no, you got to see this. This is actually a legit great movie. So interestingly enough, this I did not know until today. I got up early because I watched both these movies last night. I could have not watched Tales from the Crypt last night, and I could have been fine coming into today because I've seen this movie like 50 times. I absolutely adore this movie. I got up this morning because I wanted to do a comparison of the two versions of An All Through the House. And as I was looking, I was like, wait, Freddie Francis directed an episode of the TV series. He directed the movie here too, which we'll get into Freddie Francis at the end. So I looked up the episode. It's season 7, episode 2, and it's this story again, redone more comedically though, not nearly good. I was sending you guys clips as I was watching it. I was like, oh my God, they did the story again. In the newer version, it's 3 sisters who are like antique dealers, and they get a hold of the monkey's paw, and it's the same exact thing. They read the exact same incantation that's on the monkey's paw in this.
People just don't listen. It's just like, don't do it. It's just like, if there's an incantation, don't say it.
But they wish for lots and lots of money. One of the sisters dies. The sister says, well, I wish she was alive. I wish we could get her back just as she was right before the car went into the lake. And she died before the car went into the lake. So it's basically the same thing. There's a different twist at the end.
Right.
But it's season 7, episode 2. Basically, Freddie Francis remade his own story here. Not as good as this, but this is 25 years later. This is like 1997.
I mean,
I think it gets a little tropey around this episode, though.
What's that?
The monkey paw story seems to be done quite like a lot though.
A lot.
They do it a lot. Yeah.
The Simpsons did a version of it when they're Treehouse of Horror.
Yes. Yes.
Been done. Have been certain and all kinds of variations too, like Joe was saying. So.
Yeah, you think a lot of anthology movies have done it too.
Do you think it has something to do? Because do you think it's because it's kind of weird. The monkey paw story is kind of like it feels like it's stolen from the Aladdin story, like the Three Wishes and the it's kind of
Where
has
did
that.
it come from? Where did the monkeys? I know where it came from, but
it's an original. No, it's an original story.
I know. I'm trying to figure out where the concept came from. Though I've got the book.
I mean, it's probably just old folklore, just passed down generation to generation to generation. I mean, you get it all the time. Like even the Wishmaster movies, in a way.
Yeah. Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, you get the djinn that comes out, and be careful what you wish for.
And he gives you what you want. It's just not exactly what you want.
Oh, I just thought of the blue djinn for I Dream of Jeannie when you said remember the blue djinn. I don't know why I just thought of that. Just popped in.
Or maybe it's a cautionary tale that if you're going to speak English, you might want to speak it properly.
Yeah, I remember there was one wrong. In one of the Wishmaster movies, they tell the djinn, "I'd like to see this guy go fuck himself." So the guy's body.
Oh my god, that Wishmaster, that is some fucked up shit, man. I there's like, how many of them are there? 3?
There's 4. I didn't realize that.
4. I've seen 3.
What's his name? The guy who plays the djinn in the first 2, he's only in the first 2. So yeah, the third one I was kind of disappointed.
That's some seriously fucked up shit. I'm probably gonna turn that on when I get up.
There's some fucked up movies.
Something horrible to watch.
I know. I want to be young and beautiful forever, and each year turns into a mannequin. I remember that.
Yeah, there's that. Yeah. I want to never grow old. It turns into a mannequin. That was even one of the first 2 movies. I don't remember which one. I haven't seen those in a while.
Yeah,
they're bizarre.
But I mean, I like this one, but I have to sit there and say it's one of those ones that it also reminds me of this Alfred Hitchcock episode with Joseph Cotton, and he gets in a car accident, and basically he swerves off in a car accident, and he's laying there, and basically he's alive inside his head, and he's like, and they steal his clothes and they steal everything, so he's there in his underwear, and then they basically, I need to show him I'm alive, but he can't move anything. He's like, oh, and then they take him to to get an autopsy, and they see like a small tear coming out of his eye. But
that's just
this reminds me of that story as well. It's just like,
there's nothing worse than thinking about you're frozen and somebody starts giving you an autopsy. It's just like, fuck. It's just like that's like
and you're alive in your head, but they can't figure out that your body's alive.
There's actual there's clinical things where you look like you're dead.
Yeah, well, I mean, God knows what they were doing in Victorian times, because I mean, people were in the grave. So.
Can you imagine? It's just like, they think you're in a state of rigor mortis, and they bury you, and you're just like, fuck. Just like, what a way to go. I mean, no wonder Edgar Allan Poe was fucked up.
You wake up, they think you're a living corpse, and they kill you.
Yeah, it's like a vampire or something. God, we got morbid Christmas minds going here.
Yeah. So I guess we'll move on to the last story, which is Blind Alleys, with the great Patrick McGee, man. He's been put through some shit in a lot of movies, whether it's A Clockwork Orange or this movie.
Yeah.
Always being put through the ringer. In A Clockwork Orange, he and his wife are attacked and raped by the gang, and here he's a blind man who's being tortured by this new director of the hospital, and he's the guy who's kind of the one who's speaking up for his You
gotta wonder who thinks of that when they think of this shit. I mean, it's like, oh, about today I decided I'm gonna write a horrible story about torturing human beings.
I mean, have you ever watched Hellraiser?
Yeah.
That's what it felt like.
Same concept, yeah.
I think it's quite funny because if anything, I think the titles are a bit weird, because even though the Peter Cushing's episodes called Poetic Justice. I consider this one should have been Poetic Justice.
Oh yeah,
because this has. I mean, the thing is about the starving of the patients because to save money, the lack of heat to try to save money, and then what happens is, he does the same thing to the guy who's basically making these decisions and to his dog, and then we get the ending. But saying that, I have to sit there and say that this has a cruelty in it of all its own. It's just like,
yeah,
to go through this, the razors and the nails and everything built into these like skinny hallways, and then starving of the dog so it would eat him as.
And then turning the lights out.
Do that?
And then after he comes through and gets to the other side, that's when you release the dog, and then you turn the lights out. So he's got to go back through all those razors and things, but without being able to see. So yeah, you're right. This probably should have been called Poetic Justice, because this is the only one where you do get, what happens is directly comparable to what you were doing.
And I was amazed at how good blind builders were, because I always think they could build very well.
Well, in looking at Tales from the Crypt this morning, I discovered that this was also redone in the TV series with Terry Polo, John Savage, and the guy's name escapes me, but he's the guy that was in the Omega Man. He was the leader of the mutants that was after Charlton Heston.
Was he?
Okay. No, in the TV remake of this episode.
Oh,
in the TV version. And they switched it around. So Terry Polo, who is she's Ben Stiller's wife in the Meet the Parents movies. She's a pretty blonde woman who's brought in. Isaac Hayes is in the Patrick McGee part. He's the kind of the leader, the outspoken one of the blind people. And basically in the new version, that guy is sexually exploiting Terry Polo, trying to force her to sleep with him at first to get out, and she won't do it. So then he starts taking more and more away from the blind people, and he sends John Savage, who's his younger brother, who he's kind of, he's kind of more kind-hearted. He's trying to get away from everything his brother's doing. He sends him to tell Terry Polo's character that if you don't sleep with him, they're going down to one meal a day, and he's taking more and more away. So that version, it becomes a little sleazier than this version.
Right.
But it's the same thing.
I imagine though that the end of it probably has a bit more gory finale.
And the other thing, and it's the reason that I just thought of it, just remembered it now. John Savage is not blind. He's the director's brother, and he helps them build the trap for his brother, and you find out that he inherited the home by apparently killing his mother. It's a much sleazier, gorier affair than this version, but yeah, just wanted to throw that out there that it's there. Here, this reminded me a lot of, and I didn't watch these at the time, so I wasn't able. Talk to me 2 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to make this comparison. They're like the juvenile delinquent movies of the 30s, where you'd have in one of them, it's the East Side Kid, or the Dead End Kids, are all put in a juvenile delinquent home, where you have this overbearing warden who is torturing them, and at one point, and always the snapping point, which is the snapping point here, is one of them dies. It happens in The Mayor of Hell. It happens in Girls in Chains. It happens.
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yeah.
One Flew Over the Cuckoo. It happens in any basic prison movie, whether it's even a women in prison movie. I watched recently Reform School Girls, and it's the same thing. You have the overbearing warden who is, just an asshole to everybody. And the second somebody dies, that's when everybody just bands together and goes, we're going to take this motherfucker out. And it happens in this too. And it's satisfying to see them stand up for themselves and do it.
Right.
And yeah, this is all Patrick McGee here. I love Patrick McGee in this as especially his slow speaking drawl. Apparently, he's never seen the movie, or he never had. At least at the time, Sam Irvin interviewed him in the late '70s. He said he had never actually seen the movie, but he enjoyed his time on it. He was paid by the day, so he knew that it was going to be a quick turnaround because they weren't going to want to pay him too many days. Never saw it. Heard it was good. Never had the time to really check it out, but he enjoyed doing it. That's all I can get on this movie about for Patrick McGee. Peter Cushing. All I read about him was that is people have asked if that's his actual wife in the portrait. He says no, it's not. So
I found the funny thing about this is that it was rated X when it came out here.
It's rated PG now. On the back of the Blu-ray, it's PG.
Yeah, but it was rated X when it came out here in the UK.
But I think everything in the UK, I think all horror in the UK got an X rating regardless of.
I'd be curious to know what Caligula got in the UK. I mean, was it rated? Was it just off the chart?
No, because but England doesn't have a problem with sex. They have a problem with violence.
That's true. It's the violence. Sex is not a problem. I keep forgetting that. We're the fruits over here about sex. Everybody's doing it. No one wants to talk about it.
But what I liked about I think what sells the story though is even though you don't see it really happening, but the idea of like walking through this corridor with these razor blades cutting you. That's like the razor blade. Because nothing's worse than a paper cut and a razor blade cut.
Between the fingers even.
Yeah, and then you get the multiple, it's the literal death of 1,000 cuts here.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what they should have done was had
that's
rain.
Cruel. That's sick.
They should have an alcohol rain coming down over him as he's
yeah, rubbing alcohol.
Yeah. Would have been a salt on some of the a bit of salt as he's rubbing against the salt.
There's a salt pit at the end.
A
tripwire, a big tripwire in a salt pit.
We can make our own movie.
Well, actually,
great ideas.
To be honest, when you watch all those, B or C celebrities on these champion shows, I mean, why don't they get them why don't we see a course like this on there? I'd watch it.
But sliding down a 40-foot razor blade into a pool of rubbing alcohol? What?
Yeah.
Could have been on Fear Factor.
Yeah, not for 50 grand though. There ain't shit on Fear Factor I would do for 50 grand. Have to like eating the cockroach milkshakes and no.
I mean, I'd watch it. I probably would end up watching those series if they're like that. If people actually,
they do. Well, yeah, they do. The Fear Factor over here, they make them do it, or they used to.
Yeah, but they live. I want to see them die in it.
I don't want to see them die. Well, yeah, it depends.
I mean, I want to see Squid Games where basically it's like you literally have one standing because they're all like corpses.
Yeah, that's a good idea, actually.
And then I would have been more emotionally invested in it. Otherwise, I'm just gonna watch.
Well, yeah, you have to have that little special thing. I get you.
Right, and I guess then we have the what's become. I mean, even at this point, they'd already done this twist ending a couple times with Amicus. You have what's become the ubiquitous horror anthology ending, which is, you were in hell all along.
Yeah. Sort of like in that movie Krampus, they wake up and they're in the snow globe forever, and all the other families are in the snow globes. That just gives me anxiety just thinking about being stuck in a snow globe with all of my people.
I mean, I kind of wonder.
Go ahead, Keith.
They all go down into the fiery pit, don't they? That's how they end.
Yeah, with Ralph Richardson turning and looking at us.
Yeah.
And intimating, this could be you. You better watch what you're doing.
Cautionary tale.
Because you better watch out. You better not cry. You better not
show.
Why.
So, I want to read this. I feel like all four of us here really enjoy this movie. I feel like all four of us.
Yeah.
It's a classic.
So Sam Irvin interviewed Freddie Francis, and you could read it in his book, I Was a Teenage Monster Hunter, How I Met Vincent Price, Christopher Lee, Peter Cushing, and more. And you can get the book on Amazon. There's a plug for you right there, Sam. Thank you for doing all these interviews over the long career you've had. And I know I'll make sure he sees this one. I'll send it to him. He asked
Shameless plug for those we love.
Well, it's not shameless. I mean, it does fit.
I'm kidding. You're always saying they're shameless. I get shameless plugs all the time.
But this one is direct to Freddie Francis, by the way, Academy Award winning cinematographer, one of the greatest cinematographers to ever live. He went into directing with Hammer and Amicus because he was going to make more money. He still enjoyed doing it. He made a lot of good movies. He made some schlocky ones. This one I find to be my favorite of his films. However, when Sam asked him, "What do you think of Tales from the Crypt, one of your most financially successful films?" Freddie Francis responds, "I did not love it. It is not my best film by any means. I don't know why it was so successful, and I can assure you that I'm still trying to figure out why. The script was rather bad, and I had to do a lot of work on it. Peter Cushing and I basically rewrote the Grimsdyke tale, so there's your answer to that. Maybe there was some input from Peter Cushing. But just about every script I get is very one-dimensional. I consider my scripts as outlines. I consider my job to be taking these outlines with one-dimensional characters and making everything come alive." So that Freddie Francis is apparently not a big fan of this movie. I love this movie. I think it's his best movie.
I don't understand why he's so hard on it.
I don't know.
You're never satisfied with your.
Yeah, but the thing is like you know what I think it is? You know what I think it might be is simple fact that if you look at his other stuff that he does, he's a cinematographer. Dune and
The Elephant Man. He won the Academy Award for that.
Right.
Yeah, and then if you look at this, it has this feeling of a TV movie.
Well, it was basically.
No, it wasn't.
No,
well, I know, but I mean, if you look at the 70s, anything, I mean, that is going to look very grim.
No, this was released at the cinema, but I'm talking about if you look at, because the thing is like, there's not a lot of, I mean, I'm not taking anything away from this movie because the movie.
Oh, I know you're not. I know you're not.
But but if you look at the way it is, I mean, you could tear this movie apart and basically stick it in Tales of the Unexpected or a Night Gallery at the time,
right.
and you wouldn't be able to tell that this was actually a part of a movie situation, and maybe that's what it is because I mean the whole movie holds together.
I can see where you think that.
And the anthology movie, if you look at the anthology movies, like if you look at what we saw today with Christmas Horror Story, which what they're doing now with the anthology film is like taking it and blending it together. Pulp Fiction and Sin City, which we'll be covering, and all the other stuff.
Right.
So that's quite interesting. But with this anthology format, where they're like individual stories, and you kind of have like this little thing kind of connecting them that doesn't really overbranch everything. So I mean I can understand why he'd feel that way. If you look at Dune or Elephant Man or Cape Fear or I mean, he worked with Spike Lee for fuck's sake. If you look at all the other films that he was a cinematographer on, I could see he probably would feel that way a little bit.
Those are legit A-level movies. This was, as much as you might like it, and I do love this movie, it is a B movie.
Yeah.
So
it's a drive-in movie, really, I guess.
Yeah. It's a drive-in movie. It's, it's
horror
was seen as, horror was seen and still is to this day. I feel like horror was seen as a lesser genre. Mm-hmm. And he probably would rather make something like The Elephant Man, would probably rather direct something like that. And I don't know that he ever got the opportunity to do that as a director. As a cinematographer,
directed that movie, Elephant Man.
Well, I mean, even if you look at the camera angles, there's not a lot of cinematography going on in this movie. I mean, it's well done, but there's not a lot. I can't sit there and say I say this is a well-acted film and the stories are brilliant, but I can't sit there and say it's the best-looking film we've seen.
I don't know if he was a cinematographer for this. No, he wasn't. Norman Warwick was the cinematographer.
Yeah, but I'm thinking he later became a cinematographer, so obviously he had vision, whatever that vision may be, and obviously that wasn't,
I mean, he didn't just become a cinematographer; he became one of the greatest to ever live.
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying is like, and then you look at something and then he directs a film and it doesn't have that cinematographer wildness for whatever reason. I mean, because let's face it, we've seen lower budget movies that have just a great cinematographer.
Right.
But I mean, but I'm just saying, I'm just trying to figure out why he would feel that way. Maybe because it sounds like he had a great experience working with everyone, and he didn't mind the filming of it. Just for some reason, he didn't. Yeah, it sounds like he didn't enjoy the the overall effect after it was finished.
That's why he didn't like writing, because he said he and Peter Cushing rewrote the Grimsdyke episode, and he seems to like that. But it seems like everything else, he said it's very one dimensional. Which, I mean, I guess, I mean, it was also, even if you look at it and we'll look at more Amicus movies over the course of the season, it is still very derivative of the other Amicus movies, which had a lot of similar themes. They all have this flowing, EC comic style morality through them, where hey, you're a scumbag, you're gonna get, you're gonna get your due, you're gonna get your just desserts.
And strangers showing up together who don't know each other, and then their stories are told out, and then they have to go to an elevator. They go into an elevator, or they go into another room.
It's always the same twist.
Yeah.
And this was like the 6th or 7th movie at this point, because the Torture Garden, same twist. All of them, same twist.
See, I kind of wonder maybe these films did so well because maybe it's because we didn't really Twilight Zone was off the air by that time, and I know Night Gallery was on, but it's like I think we always yearn for these anthology things, don't we? These simple stories, and I mean, I go back to Twilight Zone on a regular basis. I go to these anthologies on a regular basis. Night Gallery, Alfred Hitchcock Presents. Anytime I see, it's like, I still do. It's like, Alfred Hitchcock Presents is being broadcast here on one of the Sky stations on a Saturday and Sunday, so I get up and I have to watch it. And I think that's why we love Tale of the City, because I think it has that anthology feel. We love these individual stories. We love these morality.
Well, they're short too, and they throw you into it real quick, and they get interesting real quick, and they're pretty climactic.
It's the twist in the tail. That's what I love, the twist in the tail.
The other thing, if you don't like this particular story, you don't have to wait very long to see if the next one's going to be more interesting.
Yeah.
Right.
Another one's on its way.
Yeah.
Yeah. The story's going to be quick. We'll get to another one, and there's that. For most of these, Cat's Eye, you had multiple stories that were like half an hour long, and you're going to get that with others where.
Well, even VHS, I'm not a huge fan of VHS, but because there's always one story that I really like in it, I'll sit through it because of that one story that's coming up. You know what I mean? And every anthology, even as the Dead Time stories might be, bring that out there. Even if it's a shitty, horrible anthology film, there's always still one good story that you can remember.
There's something in there that's good, yeah. Well, that's when we were spoiled, because we get 3 great stories and 2 good stories.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's how I feel about it. I feel like the first, third, and fifth story are fucking phenomenal. Like, I think they are absolutely great, untouchable. I think they are absolutely perfect.
But we also have a cast that I think can sell anything. I mean, they could sell Snow to the Eskimos. This cast could.
I mean, this is what Vincent Price was talking about. How when you started getting the more method acting, like the Marlon Brando and Jimmy Dean and those people, everybody who was like the classically trained Shakespearean actor had to start doing like B movies, and they started doing horror movies. But they lend an aura to it that gives it credibility.
And then and these are British as well, so basically these people are all RADA trained at that time.
Yeah, I mean, you have Sir Ralph Richardson as the Crypt Keeper here. This isn't like just some guy they got off the street. This is one of the great actors of his time. So there's that aspect of it too. The cast of these are phenomenal.
Yeah, Ian Hendry. I mean, they're all they're all done Shakespeare on stage. Joan Collins. I mean, she was a stage actress as well. If you look at her. Nigel Patrick is another one.
Peter Cushing was doing Shakespeare. Nigel Greene was doing Shakespeare. So you have all these great, wonderfully trained
types. Yeah.
I mean, if you look at Nigel Patrick's career, just as his stage work before World War II, I mean, he was on in the West End in The Life Machine and Half a Crown and The Lady Ella Prance and plays that they can't do today because they're too intricate for a lot of actors nowadays to do. So it's like, there they are. popping up in these little Amicus movies.
Yeah. When did they stop? Did they go out of business? They went out of. They quit.
That was going to be my next. Hang on, I got to find the interview with Milton Subotsky, and I will read exactly what happened with that. Thanks for the throw to that, Vicky. Let me find it real quick. Page 2.
And then other films that weren't though. I mean, was in The Skull. That's Amicus, The Skull.
Yeah, The Skull is also. He mentions that one here. Sam Irvin again asked him
about the hands.
Yeah. And now the screaming starts.
Okay. Oh, that's
The Skull. I love, and I've recreated the scene a couple times. The scene where they pull Peter Cushing in front of the judge, and he does the Russian roulette thing. Sam Irvin in August of 1975 asked Milton Subotsky, "What are you up to with Amicus?" Milton Subotsky. Well, I am leaving Amicus. That is what I'm up to with Amicus. I have been having nothing but fights for the last 3 years. I've been having fights with Max Rosenberg, and he brought in a guy called John Dark, who's an absolute little bastard. Sam asks him, "Do you want me to print that?" "Yes, he's a little swine."
At least Sam asked him before he told him he's going to print it.
Are you sure you want me to print this? This guy fancies himself a producer as well as an executive, and he gradually started to extend himself when we got into more battles. Finally, I said, "To hell with this," and I walked out. That was that. And there were financial problems with money. I was constantly fighting with Max about percentages and so on. I've got 2 more films that I've got to do with Amicus, and I've signed an agreement that I do nothing but scripts and editing. I will leave the physical production to John Dark. After that, it'll be the end of Amicus. I don't think they will make another film. I came up with all the ideas. I wrote all the scripts. I rewrote the ones that didn't originate. I just don't want to battle with anyone anymore. I just want to go off and make my productions. I don't want any power struggles. They can have it. You see, Max never came up with any of these ideas. They were all my ideas. Max's job was financing. He has nothing to do with making these films. So once a person who creates the project is out, who's going to give them projects? Scripts don't just come to you. Frankly, I don't think they will be able to continue. I may be wrong. They may get some pictures made, but I don't see it on what material. So yeah. So wow. Amicus, ironically, the root word being friend.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to sit there and say, I mean, by the end of them, I mean, they were running out of steam.
They were.
Yeah, they didn't go out on a high. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
They're still, I think Vault of Horror is after this, which is a step down from this. From Beyond the Grave is after this. This interview was 3 years after this movie, so we still have a couple of good ones to go. From Beyond the Grave is great.
But I like all the Amicus films. I don't want to take anything away from them because I do enjoy all of them. But there is wash, rinse, and repeat feel about them.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, and we're gonna get to that as we go through more of these, and it's kind of like when we were talking about the Abbott and Costello movies. And, back then there was no home media. So if you missed it in the theater, it didn't matter. Because if you didn't see, Asylum or Dr. Terror's House of Horrors or whatever, you don't know what the twist ending is there. Maybe none of your friends saw it. Maybe it never came to your town. You saw Tales from the Crypt, but you were seeing it for the first time. Now, 50 years later, you get people like us who are watching them all, and they're all readily available. And I can watch all of them in the next 2 days if I want to.
Right.
But I will see the cracks, and I will see, there's a sameness to them, and you're going to get that, and we'll start seeing that as they go on. And they also made movies that weren't anthology films, and those are not as well regarded. The anthology films is like their bread and butter. After that, the dinosaur movies they made, if you watch those, the effects are terrible. The writing is schlocky. Some of them are on Mystery Science Theater 3000, so you can watch them that way. And I would say watch them riff.
Mystery Science Theater. That's where they all go to die.
At the Earth's core, I enjoy the movie, but I enjoy it more watching it with MST3K.
Yeah.
because it's just that much better. And it's on Netflix if you want to see it.
It makes it a little more fun to watch.
The budget started getting lower, and the costumes for the creatures started getting worse. But it's still a while away after Tales from the Crypt. And from the mid '60s to the mid '70s, they were very, very good with the anthology movies. But you also got to remember what happened in '73 and '74, because that's when The Exorcist came out. That's when Texas Chainsaw Massacre came out, and Black Christmas came out, and those movies just changed the landscape of horror entirely. So I guess starting with you, Davide, what do you think of Tales from the Crypt? I think we already know.
Such a horrible movie. No, I'm joking. So it was a dark fantasy horror. That's the way I see it, but very humorous as well. I adore this movie. I mean, the life lessons and the morality. I mean, you mentioned that it might be classified as a B movie, but goddamn, what a B movie! I loved it. I don't see it as a B movie. I can't wait to make it watch to my brothers. So, 10 monkey paws out of 5, if I could.
10 monkey paws out of 5. So
wow, I know. At least I know what you like now.
This is probably one of the best movies I've ever watched. I'm not gonna lie. This is on the top of my top list. Really, really, really loved it.
I like this movie that much. You did mention a couple months ago. You mentioned liking the cartoon series Tales from the Crypt Keeper. Obviously,
there you go.
I need to get into the TV shows because you guys suggested it to me. I still need to get into it. Maybe for Christmas I could see, since I got some time.
The one of the first episodes is a remake of the Joan Collins and All Through the House, just redone. The TV series is great. My only complaint is that it's kind. I guess it seems to be kind of difficult to find. If Keith knows where to get it in the UK, maybe you can watch it there. But it's I love the TV series too. But yeah, I absolutely adore this movie. I'm glad you really liked it. I wasn't sure. I was really curious.
No, I adored it. I really adored it. It's really well done. I loved it.
Awesome. How about you, Vicky?
Oh, absolutely 5 for this one. It was just good, clean fun. It's just fun to watch. I love anthologies as well for all the obvious reasons. They're short, the story, and if like he said, if you don't like the story, there's always another one coming up. But these were all really well done. I thought I was pretty happy with it.
Yeah, at the worst, the stories were good for this one. That's how I felt about it. So how about you?
Wasn't nothing horrendous about any of it.
No, absolutely not. And how about you, Keith?
Solid 5, classic, and I'll watch it. Bought the Blu-ray, bought the T-shirt, bought everything. But I love these kind of films. So I'm very partial to these Amicus anthology films. So
I'll show you guys something here. This is how much I love. What did I just do? Wrong thing. How do I spin this around to? How do I spin the camera? Oh, there it is. I want to show you guys that. I have that hanging on my wall, which was made by an artist I met at a convention a couple years ago. And as soon as I saw that, I grabbed it immediately. I'm like, I want that, and I hung it up on my wall. In my LA apartment, and now it's in storage. I got to go get it out. I have an Italian release poster from this movie, which just has gorgeous artwork. I'll send you guys a photo of it later because I have it hanging over my couch. But yeah, I absolutely adore this movie too. I'm with you guys on this one.
Yeah.
Well, as for me, I also give it a 5. So yeah, I've been gushing over this movie for like an hour and a half. So we'll watch it.
I would have never known you liked it, Joe.
Yeah, I intimated last week. I was like, last week we couldn't find any information on Island of Life. You won't be able to get me to shut the fuck up about Tales from the Crypt.
It's okay.
Absolutely love this movie. Go see it. Fucking check it out wherever you can see it. I own the Blu-ray. I owned it on I own multiple copies on VHS. I owned it on DVD. I own it on Blu-ray now. I just love this movie that much.
5 stars. Check it out.
Well, that brings us to the end of the Literature License Podcast. Anthologies next month will be Sin City from 2005 and Southbound from 2015. And, of course, we'll be continuing our Make-Remake next week with Lion King 1994 and the remake from 2019. And Book to Screen we'll be going back to normal through January with our Death and Politics with Watership Down, the book by Richard Adams, and the film from 1978. Batman animated series. We'll start off with the old Batman animated series with the Worryman and Sideshow, Trial, and a Bullet for Bullet. Until next month, we'll be turning into the new adventures of Batman. And of course, 2 for 1 Dark Families will be the Iron Giant from 1999 and the Monster House from 2006. So it's good night for myself. Good night, Vix.
Night, everybody. Merry Christmas.
Good night, Joe.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Davide.
Good night, everyone.
And Feliz Navidad. Merry Christmas.
I'm a man of reason, and they say 'tis the season to be jolly, but it's folly when you volley for position.
Never in existence has there been such a resistance to ideas meant to free us. If you could see us, then you'd listen. Toiling through the ages, making toys on garnished wages. There's no union, we're only through when we outdo the competition. I make toys, but I've got aspirations. Make some noise, use your imagination. Girls and boys, before you wish for what you wish for, there's a list for who's been naughty or nice, but consider the price to an elf.
A full indentured servitude can reflect on one's attitude, but that silly red hat just makes the fat man look outrageous.
Absurd though it may seem, you know I've heard there's even been illegal doping, and though we're coping, I just hope it's not contagious.
You try to start a movement and you think you see improvement, but when thrown into the moment, we just don't seem so courageous. I make toys, but I've got aspirations. Make some noise, use your imagination. Girls and boys, before you wish for what you wish for, there's a list for
who's been naughty or nice, but consider the price to an elf.
You look at yourself, you're an elf, and the shelf is just filled with disappointing memories. Trends come and go, and your friends want to know why you aren't just happy making crappy little gizmos. Every kid knows they'll just throw this stuff away.
We're used to repetition, so we drew up a petition. We the undersigned feel undermined. Let's redefine employment.
We know that we've got leverage, so we'll hand the fat man a beverage and sit back while we attack the utter lack of our enjoyment.
It may be tough to swallow, but our threats are far from hollow. He may thunder, but if he blunders, he may
wonder where the toys went.
I make toys, but I've got aspirations. Make some noise, use your imagination. Girls and boys, before you wish for what you wish for, there's a list for
who's been naughty or nice, but consider the price.
Naughty or nice, but consider the price.
Naughty or nice, but consider the price to an elf.